No doubt, and I hope they compete. I mean, it would be unbelievable to see the division on the line next week. Obviously, the Steelers don't want that. But again, this Cleveland defense, you mentioned it, was playing so good earlier in the year. Feel like they have so many young players. They've kind of hit the wall, so to speak. We'll see if they can get it back together, obviously, with a lot of pride in the division going on here.
I want to see improvement with Shador, too. I mean, see a little improvement from Shador today, Coach, huh?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, man, those rookies leading everything. That's why they won 3 games. This team ain't going to be close this game. Aaron Rodgers, I'm fascinated by that.
Here's a 2nd and 8. This pass to Fannin. He caught it, and he rolls in untouched. Harold Fannin Jr. with his 71st catch of the year, his 6th touchdown. On the near side is Myles Garrett. And here they go with Hayward. Look at Connor Hayward racing down the sideline.
That's a great call. We talked about Arthur Smith.
First down with 5 minutes to go in the half. Pressure, tip, pick, Sawyer. Knocked down and saved by Jenkins. Highsmith forced the entire turnover as he hit Sanders as he was trying to unleash it.
Defensive tackle position.
Back goes Rodgers, in trouble, and he's sacked from behind. And there is a sack by 91 Alex Wright. Taken to the line, buying time, heaving it, desperation throw. Not a good one, not a good one at all. Intercepted by Duggar. Need 10 for a first. Rodgers pass, deflected. And the Browns stopped them 4 straight plays. Play clock. Rodgers out of the gun. Looking to the end zone, and it is incomplete. Incomplete and no flag. The Browns have pulled off the upset.
Let's see. I mean, man, those rookies leading everything. That's why they won 3 games. This team ain't going to be close this game.
Over hours, we will ask the following questions. Did Shador Sanders do enough to keep his job? In a week full of big games, what game do you want to see at 8 p.m. On Sunday to finish the NFL season? And what can the Cavs do to really fix these toughness issues? Along with, can they actually do anything? And also, too, can the Guardians sign anybody? We're going to ask a lot of questions here. Hopefully, we'll find some answers. This is the main event on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I am Rob Rozycki. We have Eli Moon next to me. No AA Anthony Alford. He did put together an intro. I don't know if he's at a Fresh Prince convention or what is happening right now, but no AA Anthony Alford. He'll be back next week. How you doing today, Moon? How was your holiday season? And just in general, how are things?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking, Rob. I'm doing great. Christmas, for those that celebrate, I celebrate. And it was great. I had a great time. I got to see my mom, which I don't get to see her very often, so that was great. Got to hang out with the fam, got to see my niece and nephew, my sister, brother, brother-in-law, pops, like I said, it was great, and I got this nice flannel and some other things from my mom, for Christmas, always taking care of me. So, I'm great, man, and I'm blessed. I had New Year right around the corner. I mean, I don't have any plans per se, but it is right around the corner. And AA on assignment. So he's always busy. So I speak on behalf of AA. He will be back next week.
He'll be.
How are you? How are you?
Holiday season, everybody's been crazy and everything like that. So I do understand. Yeah, it was a nice Christmas over here too. I got this hat for myself. That was nice, but my girlfriend Nikki, she went above and beyond and got me a PlayStation 5. I got her a Switch, so we've been playing a lot of video games around here these last couple of days. So it hasn't been too bad. It has cut into the prep time. I'll tell you what, playing Madden as opposed to actually working on show topics. I got to get back on the straight and narrow here. Yeah. But at least we did not have any problems coming up with show topics today. Right. We had a lot going on around the NFL, Major League Baseball, a little bit in college football. We're going to hit a little bit, and basketball, I guess. They're kind of intertwined. We have a lot going on today in the world of sports, in the weekend sports, when you get down to it. And first and foremost, here locally, number 1 and number 2 and number 3 right now, Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, a game that the Browns didn't have a whole lot of hopes coming into kickoff today at Huntington Bank Field at 1 o'clock. But when it was all said and done, 13-6, the Browns beat the Steelers for the 4th straight time in Cleveland, which I was, when I heard that one, I was a little shocked. But in doing so, Shedeur Sanders has helped himself out maybe with his chances of keeping the gig next year, along with completely screwing the Steelers when it comes down to their playoff chances and their playoff hopes. A loss today now makes their game against Baltimore this coming week, week 18, and I have all of my desk falling apart right now.
You're all good.
Week 18
this.
absolutely means something for sure. It's going to be all or nothing, winner go home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot did happen at First Energy Stadium, not just for the Browns, but really to kind of mess with the entire playoff picture in general. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Shedeur? Do you want to start with Myles Garrett? Do you want to start with Aaron Rodgers? Do you want to start with Mike Tomlin?
Yeah.
There's different ways we could take a look at this game.
Well, I mean, it's not very often we win in Cleveland. Just whether we're on the road or at home. So it's great. And I saw a crazy stat coming into today. I think we're going to start with the Browns and winning this game. Not that it matters in the grand scheme of things record-wise, Rob, but I did see a cool stat before the game. Since 2017 or 2018, the Browns are 5-1-1 against the Steelers at home in Cleveland. And now 6-1-1. And that blew my mind, because you don't think about it when you think about the rivalry or whatever left there is of the rivalry right now between the Browns and the Steelers. You don't think about how the Browns have really handled them at home, and have got the better of them in certain situations. I mean, looking at the 20 to 25 years, history, not so great, but the Browns have took care of business in Cleveland, and that was a big thing discussed. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, the Browns can't even win in Cleveland. Nobody cares. Nobody fears coming into Cleveland. So to see that stat and then to see the Browns get that W, that's cool. And also, we've talked about getting these W's before. I think this was big for Shedeur, Harold Fannin getting in the end zone again today. I just think it's big for those guys to get these types of wins, especially against a division rival and a team that has really been the top of this division for most of my life watching football.
Yeah, I mean, this is a far cry from 10 years ago or so, where you had Ben Roethlisberger establishing his dominance. I think, the numbers that you're talking about are a post-Ben Roethlisberger world. Maybe the last year he was around in town, but yeah, it used to be a foregone conclusion where the Steelers would show up here and take out the Browns and either clinch a division. I think it's happened a few times, and at the very least, just throw an easy win in there and go about their merry way. Now that's not the case, and you got a lot of problems in Pittsburgh, and we'll address those in a second. But yeah, Shedeur Sanders, these rookies, obviously, this was a win where the rookies did take center stage. You had Shedeur Sanders under center. You had Carson Schlesinger. He got hurt early on in the game, stayed in, and managed to throw up double-digit tackles again. You had Harold Fannin. You mentioned him. He got hurt on that touchdown, but he still managed to find the end zone. You had a lot of bright spots there and a lot of rookies kind of leading the way. Dylan Sampson. He did see at least 11 carries today. Raheem Sanders. It's weird to hear Sanders and Sanders all thrown together.
Yeah.
The weird thing was, too, what was it, Buffalo last week? They got a D tackle named Sanders. So, there was a call a few times where Sanders hands the ball off to Sanders and gets tackled by Sanders. And that was just kind of odd.
Who's on first?
Going back, though, you do have, a lot of younger talent here, taking it. You just need some receivers and some offensive linemen. You might have yourself a situation here. But the other thing, too, that Shedeur did, practically speaking, when you start talking about did he do enough to keep his job or at least have a chance at keeping his job for 2026, this win moved the Browns from the number 3 pick down to the number 6. And, and I've been looking to see some projections. I'll see if I can get them by the end of the show on what would happen if the Browns can beat Cincinnati, which, again, is a division game, is pretty winnable. When you get down to it, Cincinnati's not playing for anything. Yeah. So, at this rate, can Shedeur Sanders help himself out by screwing over the draft pick? And
right.
If he winning, it's going to be harder for the Browns to find an alternative that's better than Shedeur. So, it's kind of a good situation for him because his fate is really in his own hands.
Yeah, and we discussed a little bit, off air, and we've had discussions here even on air about, the quarterback draft class coming out, this year, and a lot of them haven't even declared yet, but, you expect the Mendoza, Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, Dante Moore out of Oregon, Ty Simpson out of Alabama, we even talked to Lenora Sellers potentially out of South Carolina as like a dark horse. You got Drew Aller, he got injured early in the year for Penn State, but like when I look at it, Rob, I know I was on the Mendoza train. I said, if they're going to do anything, if they have to take a quarterback, the only one I really trust is Mendoza. I've tried to warm up to the idea of Dante Moore. And I know he has East Cleveland ties, or somewhere in the city. I've heard different, but I've heard East Cleveland, so that's what I'm going with. But somewhat of a native here from Ohio, and I don't know if they are better than Shedeur Sanders. He's doing a lot right now with the offense. The stats aren't going to be pretty, and anybody that's listening is going to say, "Well, Eli, 17 to 23, 186 passing yards, touchdown, and 2 picks." Not necessarily pretty, but he's getting the job done. And I have not seen, like I said, a young quarterback handle the Pittsburgh Steelers since another guy. And I really don't. This is the first show in a minute. I really don't feel like bringing up the other quarterbacks of the Browns because a guy in Tampa right now has his own issues. We'll talk about that later. But I just think it's interesting enough that Shedeur is winning these football games. Does he need to limit the turnovers? Sure. These interceptions will end up costing you a game or two, down the line. And they have, bit Shedeur and the Browns offense, in the butt a few times. But completion-wise, strong, 17 to 23. Got the touchdown to Fan, and we saw that in the highlights at the beginning of the show, in the open. And ultimately, the W. And that's what I think we're grading off of. Is he progressively getting better? You're not looking at a stat line where he's errant, the entire game, 11 of 28, and, it's not ugly. Is it the most, is it beautiful football? I don't think so. But it's gritty, and it's getting the nucleus of what this team could look like on offense. Defense is figured out for the most part. You talked about Schlesinger. We're going to talk about Myles Garrett. We're going to talk about 95. And the impact he made even without getting the sack. But I think it's important to look at the growth of this team. And now Shedeur, will see, what the update is on Harold Fannin. But he might be going into the last game of the season, Rob, you mentioned, against Cincinnati, without his starting running back, Quinshon Judkins, another rookie, and Harold Fannin, two of his best targets, best options on offense. So it could be even more of an uphill battle. Cincinnati looked pretty good today, too. I get it against Arizona, who doesn't have anything to play for either, really. But, they did put up, I believe, 37 against Arizona today. So, they handled business. And so that'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting game. I get what you're saying, though, too. It's like, yeah, Shedeur keeps winning. Are the Browns going to be in a position where even if they do like a few of these guys, are they going to be able to get them? So it's going to be interesting. Me personally, you know how I feel. I've been a Shedeur fan since we drafted him. I liked him at Colorado. I just really like the confidence he exudes. And, I don't know. There's something infectious and contagious about what Shedeur brings to the Browns as their quarterback. And that's that. At the end of the day, are the Browns in the playoffs? No. Are we talking about draft position? A little bit. But I think, in my mind, we're discussing how we can tool this offense to where Shedeur isn't relying on some of these guys as much. Jerry Jeudy, I want to give him credit too, Rob, because we were giving him a tough time. We have this whole season, really. It's been bad. But today it wasn't bad at all. Actually, was the Browns' leading receiver. 5 of 7 targets. If I caught 5 passes for 54 yards. I think if we can get to a point where Jerry Jeudy's our wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, we retool in the draft and things like that, I think we got our guy at quarterback. I really do.
Well, and that might be something, too, the Browns have to look at. And one of the reasons why they didn't go quarterback this time around when they had the top 3 pick was they needed other stuff more. And, you need an offensive lineman, Ethan Posick and you might be able to DeJuan Jones, you might be able to get something out of too. But everybody else is either ineffective or at the end of the run. They're not long for Cleveland, so they have they have to look at something like that too. But with Shedeur, has he done enough? It's kind of hard to see. There's a lot of bright things there. You mentioned the big play to Fannin. It seems like he has 2 or 3 of those almost every game.
Right.
He has great improv ability. He has great pocket presence. Almost so good where holding on to the ball too long is a problem. It's cool to see that, but then you also throw 7 starts he's had now. He's got 10 interceptions, 7 touchdowns in total. You'd like to see the interceptions go down. I think it's, in the span that he's been in the starting quarterback of the Browns, he has the most interceptions in the league. Yeah. So you do have to look at that. And, okay, Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman, a lot of good quarterbacks did have a rough first season. You have to make that judgment. Is he one of those guys, or is he going to be Josh Johnson, or is he going to be Ryan Leaf? Is he going to be, somebody that may have a decent year or two and then kind of go away? So, it's going to be tough. He has one more game to really complete his resume. The other thing I'll also give him too is that even though he has been out of the pocket, he has been mobile, he has been, doing his thing, at least scrambling. We've seen 7 starts and he hasn't gotten hurt. He's, had missed a few plays here and there, but by and large, he has been durable. And, the dude they traded to Carolina for the 5th round pick a couple of years ago, that was another plus that he had. So, availability is the best ability. That might be, a nice thing for Shedeur. And, couple that with the fact that they need receivers desperately. They need offensive linemen desperately.
Right.
And they're going to be picking outside the top 5 in all likelihood. So, if it is a Mendoza, if it's that, kid out of Oregon, you got the kid out of South Carolina too, who's making some noise. There's a few dudes in there, but are they going to be around? And even if they are around, we're not exactly talking about Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning or, any of these Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams dream prospects out there. This might be a good situation for Shedeur where, hey, there's no sexy option out there. We're just going to have to go with the sturdy one, and the one who's going to be there for you and the one who's going to, that you can take home to, to mama. Okay, no problem. So
yeah,
right now Shedeur is in a pretty decent spot. Now we'll see what happens if and when there is a head coaching change. Whoever signs on or a GM change, if it is a new regime completely, then who the hell knows? But if it is a scenario where Andrew Berry and or Kevin Stefanski stick around, then okay, you might have something. But a new coach might want to have his own guy in there. But again, I'll ask the head coach the same thing I'm asking you. Is there a better option out there? So Shedeur might be in a good spot right now.
Yeah, I think he's definitely in a good spot, and I think a win against Cincinnati next week only helps his case as the starting quarterback going into 2026. I just think there's too much talent offensively. I don't, I got to do a little bit more studying in terms of the entire draft class. But at receiver, you see Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. You see Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. You see those guys. I mean, I can't help but imagine what they would look like in a brown and orange uniform. I mean, because they are a game changer on offense. Especially,
he needs somebody that can go down there and grab whatever he needs. Tyreek Hill without the drama off.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though, Rob. I'm a big Carnell Tate fan, and I think Carnell Tate, 6'3", I think 190 pounds.
Yeah, if you can get a thoroughbred, yeah, okay, yeah, if you can get somebody who can, kind of be a Calvin Johnson or Justin Jefferson type, then okay, yeah, you go for it. But
yeah, I think getting a Carnell Tate, addressing the offensive line, I don't think it would hurt. So you look at the top 3 rounds, looking at a running back. I like Dylan Sampson. I think we've given Dylan Sampson an opportunity to prove if he's the counterpart to Judkins. And I just think at best, and this is no disrespect, but I just think at best, Dylan Sampson is a depth running back for us who jumps in for goal line plays every now and then. Uh-oh, something happened. But goal line plays and, I think
real quick. Real quick here. Yeah, we're broadcasting as the Sunday night game's wrapping up here. Chicago just completed a hook and ladder with about 5 seconds to go. They spiked the ball. Chicago is down by 6 points to the San Francisco 49ers. I'm sorry, 4 points. San Francisco's up 42-38. Long story short, if Chicago pops this thing in, they win. If they don't, it will mean that the game between the Niners and the Seahawks this weekend or next weekend will be for the division. San Francisco needs to keep they're in the playoffs, but if they win, they'll keep their dreams of hosting a playoff game this year alive. Actually, we have it happening right now. Second goal, about 4 seconds to go. Caleb Williams drops back, rolls out to his left after evading a defender here, and still is scrambling.
He might have got it.
Turfs one right in front of receiver. The Niners win.
Yeah.
How's that for play-by-play, everybody? We're going to stop doing that so we don't get sued. But yeah, so it looks like here the 49ers are going to be facing the Seattle Seahawks for the division. And we'll get into that next segment when we start talking about these big games around the league. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Where were you at, Eli? I'm sorry.
Okay. No, you're all good.
Browns offense here.
You're all good. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of Cardinal Tate. I think, looking at, him or Tyson, whoever the Browns like better at receiver, looking at the offensive line, like I was mentioned about running back, I think we've given, the Browns have given Dylan Sampson an opportunity to kind of prove to be the counterpart of Judkins. I don't know if he is. I think he's a depth running back at best. And I think he can come in, help out with some goal line carries, help with a change of pace. But I think the Browns, in the first 3 rounds could still look at running back as well. I just think there's some things that address on offense, but defensively they're very sound. I mean, I'm never going to be opposed to adding to the defense, but if they went all offense this entire draft coming up, I don't think anybody in Cleveland's saying anything.
And the offensive line is kind of a demonstration, though, of making sure that you do pay attention to the defense. We as Clevelanders here, and you guys are fans. I see the team.
Right.
It was a general assumption the last 3 or 4 years that the Cleveland Browns offensive line was one of the best in football, and they didn't need to do anything to really mess with it. Well, a coaching change happened on the offensive line. Guys got older. Guys got hurt. They didn't hit on a draft pick or two. And before you know it, that thing that you didn't really have to pay attention to is now the worst part of the team. So, if you have a bargain out there in defense, go for it. But, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Offense, especially line and receivers, you got Fannin out there. You got Njoku. We'll see what happens if they keep him for another year. But, the running back room seems to be tight enough anyway. So, I mean, it's going to be, I think, an offensive. It's going to be more of a refueling than rebuilding. You're going to be, you're just kind of you're going to see if you can just kind of retool on the way. So, maybe if there is a new coach here, it might not be the worst job to take. On the other hand, no, as bright and happy as the Browns looks like they could be, the Steelers are pretty fucked. If you we want to use that word at 20-12 here on a Sunday night, it is the clinical definition. Their loss today screwed them big time. I think they entered the day at about a 65% chance, 75% chance to go to the playoffs. And even percentages be damned. If they won the game, they would have clinched the NFC North, or the AFC North rather, tonight.
Right.
That would have happened. That did not happen. Obviously, again, we're talking about a Cleveland Browns defensive victory here.
Yep.
And the Steelers now, with Aaron Rodgers and a very old and very underperforming defense, has to go in and deal with really one of the few running backs that truly scares me in Derrick Henry and the rest of that Baltimore Ravens team, who are on a mission right now to take this division. That is one of the games that we will have this next weekend. That is a win or go home kind of game. But the Steelers, they're a little screwed. I think when you get down to it, they wanted to make sure that Myles Garrett did not get that sack record. And that sack record and that pass rusher turned into the ultimate decoy. Congratulations, Aaron. You got sacked a couple of times. Neither was by Myles, but you lost the game. And I think if you would have decided things differently and taken a sack here or there and maybe given up the record, you might have had a better chance of winning. So, hats off to the Browns for, using Miles the way he was meant to be used. But the Steelers put themselves in a situation, man. They are not in a good spot. And I will talk to you as somebody who has watched that team for 20 years and watched 30 years and watched Mike Tomlin from being that young up-and-coming defensive coordinator in Minnesota up until now. This is as screwed as I've seen this team in Week 17 in a while.
Yeah, a lot of things really unpack there, Rob. First off, I mean, DK Metcalf. When looking at this game,
yeah,
today,
we can get there. Yeah,
there's a lot on. I guess like one of the big.
We got the game, and then we got the general screwedness. I think I covered how screwed they are, but yeah, we can get into the game. Real quick.
And the big thing is, remember, DK Metcalf suspended next week as well.
Yeah.
So it's 2 games. So that's a big thing. So that's why I bring it up. Not even just on the grand scheme of today's game. And he was definitely missing. And you felt him. Steelers fans definitely were watching that game wondering, dang, who was our wide receiver to? Because Scotty Miller, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Adam Thielen.
They had Austin was out too. So they were down really their top 2 guys. And what the other thing too that, I've been watching this team pretty much all season. Aaron Rodgers has grown to trust and rely on Darnell Washington. If you're watching and not a week-to-week fan or anything like that, he's that big 350-pound, Joe Thomas-sized dude that they got playing tight end.
Yeah.
Who's just throwing people left and right. Oh, okay. We actually see we got the windows coming out here for the games coming out here. Browns and Bengals will be at 1:00 on Sunday. Seahawks and Niners are going to be Saturday night. Okay, so the 2 games that are going to be for the division, Panthers and Bucks, are going to be Saturday at 4:30. Seattle and the Niners are going to be at 8:00 on Saturday. So that means just by sheer powers of deduction, the Steelers and Ravens are going to be Sunday night.
Yeah, that's sick. But with Darnell Washington going down and having a broken arm in this game, that safety valve was gone too. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense was dismal the entire game. At least the Browns mustered up 1 touchdown. That would end up being the deal of it. But the Steelers right now, their options in the receiving core. We talk about the Browns and how bad they are. The Steelers are about as bad. With DK Metcalf, it looked better, but everybody else now. Yeah, you got Adam Thielen that if this was 2018, okay, I'd be great about that. But yeah, I mean, it's, Darnell Washington's down. You got Freiermuth, you got Jonnu Smith, you got some tight ends that can play. But yeah, I mean, it's going to have to be a pretty creative game plan from Arthur Smith and the Steelers offense to figure out how to do this. And then you even got the defensive problems. You got the most expensive defense in the league. And this it's definitely one of the worst defenses Mike Tomlin's ever had. It might be the worst. So, yeah, there's some problems here. But, yeah, just schematically, if, when you're down Darnell Washington, when you're down DK Metcalf, and, you're really just relying on a couple of decent running backs and a bunch of tight ends, man, good luck. Yeah, and you know what? Rob, you kind of already mentioned it on the Baltimore side. Looking ahead a little bit just for a moment to Week 18 against Baltimore, Tractor Cito is alive and well. We've been wondering where Derrick Henry's alter ego was all year, and it's around that time. I was wondering. It's about getting cold out. It's been pretty cold out here in Ohio for a minute, which means it's cold where Derrick Henry is playing in Baltimore, wherever he's going to travel to, and he went off to over 200 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, he went off. And that, you bring up the Steelers defense and how bad, historically bad under Mike Tomlin they are right now. They are this is the worst case scenario. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but because it feels weird, because usually you're what could the Browns do in this scenario? That's how we usually lead most shows. And so it feels weird for me to have a conversation with you about doom and gloom. But truly, with how much Derrick Henry is heated up, Baltimore really getting themselves right back into it with a game not many people thought they would win against the Packers. And now it's really the Steelers losing to the Browns, a real letdown. Everything's in Baltimore's favor, it feels like. And the only thing that isn't in their favor right now is the health status of Lamar Jackson. And we're going to find out about that. is Lamar Jackson going to play? We know on the Steelers side, DK Metcalf will not be playing because of the suspension. We're going to hear about TJ Watt on the defensive side and Calvin Austin and these guys. But the big thing for Baltimore is it going to be Lamar Jackson or is it going to be Snoop Huntley on in week 18 for the division?
Yeah, and honestly, it might be weird to say in some ways that you're almost hoping that it's going to be Lamar, because if it is Snoop, it's going to be another 35 carry day for Derrick Henry, and that scares me. That scares a lot of people. That scares really anybody except Baltimore Ravens and the fan base. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's the Steelers are definitely in a spot. The good news is, and you brought it up in the pre-show, I will say it here. It's in Pittsburgh, so you do have that going for you. And I guess both teams control their own fate. You win, you're in. You don't, you're not. So as bad as it was today, you do have that chance if you're Pittsburgh next week. But speaking of next week, we will get into what's going on. Really this week and how it's going to affect the docket for next week. Again, the three games that we're going to be worried about next week: Panthers and Bucks for the NFC South, Seahawks and Niners for the NFC West. Those are going to be happening on Saturday. It'll be an ABC start at 4:30 for the Bucks and Panthers, and then it will also be on ABC ESPN at 8 for the Niners and the Seahawks. That'll be a doubleheader on ESPN on Saturday. And then Sunday Night Football is the other game for a division. And much like the Buccaneers and Panthers, the loser does not get a playoff spot. They will be going home. That will be the Ravens and the Steelers. That'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff, not the normal 8 o'clock. It's going to be a little early. So, actually, let me just double check I'm looking at – just wanted to make sure somebody who wasn't in like the central time zone put that map.
Yeah, our buddy Jack do that.
Jack, but these are listed at Sunday 1 o'clock games. So yeah. But everything else is just kind of cannon fodder. We'll keep an eye. There's a couple of other games that I guess the AFC South is also up for grabs too. You got the Texans. That's going to be a 1 o'clock game on Sunday. And then I'm looking to see real quick here where the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's also a 1 o'clock game against the Tennessee Titans. So we do have some games to keep an eye on. We'll talk about what games you're more excited about seeing, the Saturday night games or the Sunday night games, and really how today informed all of that. We had a chance where if everything kind of fell right, none of these games were going to matter on week 18, but nothing fell right. So we have three big games that will be happening. We'll get into the rest of the NFL action, maybe even a little bit more Browns and Steelers talking. And obviously, too, we got the Cavs coming up and we got the Guardians coming up. More NCAA issues also, too. We'll hit that at the end of the show. That and so much more here. We got Eli Moon. I am Rob Rozycki. This is the main event, and you are watching the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. We will be right back after a smoke and a pancake. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I am Rob Rozycki. We got Eli Moon. No AA Anthony Alford. He'll be back in better than ever next week.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll be able to hold the fort down for the next hour and a half or so before everything is all said and done with here. We hit the Browns. We hit the Steelers being screwed. And now it's time for the rest of the NFL. We have a lot of things to talk about here. We have a couple of teams clinching divisions. We still have a couple of divisions that are up in the air. And the weird thing is for a playoffs seedings that are pretty much set. I mean, I don't know if the seedings are set, but the teams are set. We have a lot of big games happening, a lot of things still kind of shaking around the league. And it's odd to kind of see, again, with all these divisions pretty much locked up, that everybody is still fighting and clawing their way. We had a great game in Buffalo with the Philadelphia Eagles. We obviously we had the drama going on with the divisions. And then this thriller on Sunday night. So, yeah, a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I don't know where you want to start, Rob. I mean, the AFC, the NFC, there was so much. I mean, so much. And, I mean, I guess since it just happened, you know, and it's such ramification will give the Niners and Bears maybe a moment to cool down. I kind of want to start with the AFC, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Let's start with the AFC. I'm going to pull them up here. And the AFC, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a team here that's making a lot of noise. We're going to get to the divisions. I just want to give a shout out to the Houston Texans because last week they were in the 7th seed. This week, they're in position to play the AFC North division winner. And I think that's crazy. I mean, I know we're going to talk about these division battles, and that's big with Houston, but I think that's the biggest shock, like, to a lot of people, is how poorly they started the year. And is CJ Stroud, was he just a little flash in the pan? Was it a good start, and is that it? And this defense is for real, Rob. And CJ Stroud, is he playing his lights out as his rookie year? I don't think so. But I think he's playing well enough that this Houston team is just as good as any of these other AFC teams right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is a team that started out 3-5, and they have rattled off 8 in a row, and against some pretty decent teams. You got a Jacksonville win there. You got a Chargers win that actually just happened. Yeah, this is a team right now, that is finding its stride. And, I mean, it's not completely all said and done with that AFC South. They got a couple of games happening at 1 o'clock. Jacksonville is facing the Titans, and then the other two division teams are facing each other. And Houston is actually in a very good spot. Either they're going to be hosting a playoff game, or they're going to be facing whatever team comes out of that battered and beaten AFC North with the Ravens and Steelers. So that defense, CJ Stroud, it looks like they can actually do some damage in the playoffs. And again, for a younger team, they did have that brief run a couple of years ago. They do have some experience. They do have a coach that knows what they're doing. So, shout out to those guys. And, to be able to be 3-5 and get your shit together enough where 11-5 is a real thing, and maybe even 12-5. Nice work on them for sure.
Yeah, and, when you look at the Texans, Rob, obviously, next week they play the Colts. They're at home. And then the Jaguars, they're hosting the Titans. So obviously the Jags have a little bit of a better matchup, though the Titans are playing a lot better as of recently. Cam Ward's starting to put it together. They played a close one against the Saints in a game that ultimately matters nothing.
Did you see? Speaking of that, did you see what Chase Young did? I wish we had the highlight here. Cam Ward was scrambling around, and Chase Young came around, former Ohio State star, to sack the number 1 overall pick. And instead of sacking him, I've never seen this before happen ever. Like a high school senior to an 8th grader just ran over and grabbed the ball out of his hands and ran it in for a touchdown.
That's crazy.
It was like Derrick Henry in high school kind of stuff.
That's crazy, dude. I'm telling you,
I've never seen that happen in a pro game. But I mean, the Titans are a feisty team right now. The Colts, you're going to have Phillip Rivers in what is probably going to, and it's weird that I'm saying this about a 44-year-old quarterback, what is probably going to be his last game ever. So he's going to want to go out with, and he hasn't had a win yet in this comeback run.
Right, and he hasn't played bad.
The Colts are out.
Yeah.
I think he'd like to leave with a win.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played bad. I mean, has he played electric, elite, like what we remember Phillip Rivers as? No, but he hasn't been bad, and it'd be interesting. But yeah, the Texans definitely have a tougher of the two matchups. But it'll be, like we said, whether it's Houston hosting the AFC North, or excuse me, going to the AFC North division winner, or if they're hosting a playoff spot against, a potential Chargers team, Jacksonville, Buffalo at that point, we'll see. We'll see. But I think Houston's in a great position, really, no matter where they end up. I don't think anybody in the AFC wants to see them right now. That's where I stand. And Jacksonville's interesting too. I mean, not to discredit what they've been doing all season, and they've been on a crazy winning streak, but there's just something about Jacksonville. When I look at Jacksonville and I look at Houston, Rob, and I just compare the two. And I go quarterback, dang near comparable, because Lawrence has been to the playoffs before, but he hasn't done anything really. Stroud hasn't really done too much in the playoffs. Comparable. Defenses, I give the nod to Houston. Receiving core, it's up in the air, but I'd probably give the nod to Houston. Running back room, I'd probably give the nod to Jacksonville. But it's like, when you look at it, when you start measuring these tail of the tape, I think Houston's the better team. Now, will they win the division? We'll see. But even if they don't, I think they're going to have a longer playoff run this year than the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is something I'm very confident after watching this week of football.
Well, the thing is with the AFC right now, there's a lot of teams out there that, it's a topsy-turvy year. Mahomes is obviously hurt. Even if he wasn't hurt, he wouldn't be in the playoffs right now. Lamar, he could be in. We'll see what's happening. Even if he is, it's not exactly the strongest Ravens team we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Now, who knows? They wouldn't be the first team that kind of got through the regular season just well enough to make the playoffs and then find their stride come, January and February.
Right.
But by and large, with the teams that are in, you got Denver with Bo Nix. You have, the Patriots right now. They throttled the Jets. I know it's the Jets, but Drake May had 250 yards and 5 tutties. He is mounting a very late MVP case in his own right. But that being said, he's still a young quarterback, and then you got Jacksonville. You just brought them up. Liam Cohen's done a great job, but we haven't seen Trevor Lawrence succeed in the playoffs. We've obviously never seen a first-year head coach succeed in the playoffs. You got the Chargers. You got the Bills obviously are in there too. And with that whole field, the only team in there that has really any sort of track record in the playoffs, although it's not a great one, unless, if they're playing Patrick Mahomes, is the Bills. So there's a lot of teams in there that you don't really trust. And I guess to your point about the Texans, at least, with, that system in there, with that infrastructure in there, they've gone to the playoffs. CJ Stroud seems like he does have his, stuff together enough. So, that kind of turns into the de facto second, I guess, experienced team in this AFC field. So it's going to be a wide open thing. Could it be Liam Cohen? Could it be Trevor Lawrence? Yeah, they're cooking right now. Could it be Drake May? Could it be Mike Vrabel? Absolutely. Mike Vrabel has the chops to get a team that has some talent pretty far. Sean Payton the same way with Bo Nix. So, there's a lot of things to like with these teams, again, with, and then, Denver and New England too. You got to bring up those defenses, especially Denver.
Right.
Like, just insane. You got, a lot of great defenses, the Chargers, the Texans, Broncos, Patriots. Like, it's a defensive heavy field here. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens, what somebody is going to be gaining trust. Somebody is going to get a good, some points here for street cred. And conversely, there's going to be teams that start a track record of losing in the playoffs. It's going to be fun to see what these new teams and what these new options are going to be like. But by and large, it's Josh Allen and a bunch of really untested quarterbacks and not coaches, but especially untested quarterbacks. So,
it is, Rob. And, and the thing is, Josh Allen, it's not even Josh Allen. So let me just stop there. It's the Buffalo Bills. I just don't know how they are going to get over this hurdle. I mean,
the issue is with the Bills right now is, Josh Allen and the offense seem to be good enough, but they can't stop anybody. Like, for as great as these other defenses are, and they've been missing Ed Oliver, a dominant defensive tackle, good run stopper. Think of like a Cam Hayward on the front line for the Bills, and they can't really even stop the run at all. So he might be coming back soon. He might have been playing today even, but that's going to be the big question mark for the Bills is can they stop anybody?
Yeah, and really, I mean, just remember, like, this game today against Philadelphia wasn't pretty for most of it until about like 9 minutes left in the game. It was 13-0 Philadelphia. Buffalo punched in a touchdown. They missed the extra point, got it blocked by Jalen Carter, and then they marched down at the end and tried to, they got the touchdown to be down by 1, and they went for the win, and they couldn't get it. And that's just the story of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I get it's a regular season game. But that Philadelphia, they're having their own problems. We'll talk about the NFC here in a moment. Philadelphia has their own problems. However, they showed what champions do when it starts getting to this time around the year, when you start preparing for a playoff run. And they won a tough road game in Buffalo. And that's where you have to measure like the Bills, right? Rob, you're talking about earning street cred, and the Bills have earned, a reputation for getting just close enough to hold the trophy.
Well, I'll go one step further on the rep. They're fine against anybody in the playoffs except for Patrick Mahomes.
Right, exactly.
So that's why this is a chance for the Bills to do something.
Right, but I think the problem is the teams that Josh Allen had when he was playing Mahomes were better than this team he has now. And that's the problem. It's the Bills had the weapons. I think they had a better defense back, 2-3 years ago than they have right now. They're having their own issues. Keon Coleman, who was a high draft pick from them, he played out of Florida State, was at Michigan State for a little bit. He's had his own issues. He's been basically, a healthy scratch. I think 3 weeks in a row. Or
he's had some veterans actually kind of talk to the media straight up about how he's got to basically grow up and get his shit together.
Yeah, I believe Deion Dawkins, one of the veteran leaders in that room. Yeah, he in the locker, he said, it's kind of like, put up or shut up time. Like, we're here for Keon, but he knows what he needs to do. Like, and so that's an issue too, because, that's one of your better receivers. And so the Bills have their own issues too, and I just don't think they have enough talent to compete with some of these teams. Could they? Right now, Rob, they're playing New England. If the playoffs started today, we're looking at.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
they're playing New England. Do they beat New England right now in New England round 1?
I don't know. That's going to be as much of a litmus test for Drake May as it is going to be for Josh Allen too. I mean, it's going to be. Again, you want to talk about some of these teams that have the chance to write their own stories now, that have a fresh start, that don't have a track record, that we're not going to say, oh, well, this quarterback just doesn't do well in the playoffs, or that quarterback does well. I mean, this is when they're going to be able to establish this kind of stuff. And, for Drake May and Mike Vrabel, they might be a little bit of ahead of what they thought they were going to be, but yeah, they're going to have a home game. It's either going to be against the Chargers or the Bills. I mean, I guess the Texans could drop that part too, but it's going to be probably against the Chargers or Bills. And yeah, either one are going to be adequate competition to see if they can do anything too. And then if it's going to be Pittsburgh and Houston, the other matchup, and then you got the Chargers and Jags.
Yeah,
the Jaguars and the Chargers. Those are two teams that honestly, if they weren't those two franchises and it was the same body of work with the same players, just with different logos on their helmets, I would have a little bit more faith in Herbert and Harbaugh and Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence. But right now, both of those teams, I guess, rightfully or wrongfully so with Justin Herbert, because he's had a head coaching change or two at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But Harbaugh's one wherever he goes, he succeeds wherever he goes. But that being said, with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chargers, I'm gonna have to see it until I'm gonna have to actually see it, and then I'll believe it.
Yeah, I get it. And there's a lot of question marks in the AFC. I know we're gonna talk about NFC here in a moment. I do have a question I didn't get to ask you in the first segment, and it is pertaining to this AFC North battle that like I said, it looks like it's going to be the Sunday night game. Or you did say it was going to
It
be
is the Sunday night
Yep,
game,
you
yeah.
said it right
And I
before
got
the
a
end
bottle
break.
of Jack Daniels just in case, yeah.
Yeah. So 7 o'clock, we might have something fun planned for you guys here. We'll see. I'll keep you in tune. Stay tuned for that one. But what I will ask Rob here right now this week is, okay, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, AFC North Division, loser doesn't get in. Is it also loser loses their long tenured position at their franchise? Is this like we're talking about Harbaugh or Tomlin, whoever loses this, being gone from the franchise, then moving in a new direction? Whoever loses.
I think you could say it for Tomlin. I think that could be very well the case. I mean, the murmurs have been in there and I guess they have been there too with Harbaugh, but at least John Harbaugh has had a lot more success recently in the playoffs.
Yeah.
With Pittsburgh, there was a lot of, people saying that Tomlin needs to win a playoff game. That hasn't happened in 6 years, 7 years. If he doesn't even have the chance to get to one, it'll be another 9-8 season. Yeah, the standard will be there. There is no losing season, but yeah, I mean, and I think in both cases, it's not a you suck as a head coach, get out of here. It's a situation 18, 19 years in these cases of the same message might be a little old, and we might need to kind of move to something a little different here. Now, either one of those two guys, if they were to get let go, they're going to get hired if they want by somebody else in 10 minutes.
Right.
But yeah, it might be a situation of, both of those guys. In the case of Tomlin, it could be a situation that he wins this game, goes to the playoffs, loses to Houston, and then all of a sudden that discussion starts. Because again, the Pittsburgh and now the Roonies are pretty good about drowning out the fan base. They can, they like to listen to them, but they're not going to heed to their every women desire. But it's going to be a situation again where the fans. I mean, there was fire Tomlin chance going on all season this year, so it could very well happen. I mean, and even if again, both of those guys could lose their gigs this year.
That's what I'm saying. I just think it's interesting with Harbaugh too. We've heard the noise with Tomlin, but like Harbaugh too, it's like, where Tomlin hasn't had a quarterback besides Roethlisberger, they haven't really figured it out in Pittsburgh who's going to be the future for the next 10, 15 years. The Ravens have had Lamar Jackson and have, tried to build around him and tried to get this ball rolling with him. They've got as close to the AFC Championship game, but obviously we saw the Chiefs took care of business there. So at the end of the day, it's like, if you're the Ravens organization, you're looking at this like, okay, you haven't won John Harbaugh hasn't won a Super Bowl since Joe Flacco in 2012. So it's been 13 years since he's got to the ultimate goal in the sport. And it's also been, letdown after letdown. They haven't even got back there. So I guess two different goalposts.
The issue that the Ravens have had is this, is the same that the Bills have had, only with a different player. The Bills can't beat Mahomes, and the Ravens can't beat Josh Allen. Right. That's been the pecking order the last few years here. So, yeah, I mean, Lamar is still going to have to potentially worry about a Josh Allen matchup, but at least you got the black cat. Mahomes just kind of chilling out in the corner. He's not going to be doing anything this year. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting, and it's like it's crazy to think about. And I won't get too crazy about it, but if some coaching decisions move around, and we'll see what the Steelers quarterback room looks like next year. And the Browns got 2 first-round picks. And
the thing is too, and I'm not saying it's all going to fall this way, but there could be a scenario where Kevin Stefanski is the senior coach of the AFC North, and there's also a situation where Zach Taylor could be.
Yeah,
and there's also a situation that all 4 of these guys could conceivably lose their job.
Dude, I mean, that's what
Cincinnati's nothing to write home about. You got Joe Burrow up there despondent. He looks like he needs, mental health, helpline here. Like he needs to talk to Papa Moon.
Dude, he is.
Like that's been kind of insane to watch. While we're talking about the NFL and just the league in general, Cincinnati, what are they? They got beat today.
No, they did. They actually whomped Arizona today, but they've been bad overall all year.
They did whomp. Yeah, they had they had a good day, and they had a good week against Miami last week. But with those 2 victories in there, watching Joe Burrow basically, having his love of football being destroyed in real time in front of your eyes. Yeah, I mean, if I know Mike Brown doesn't like to pay people for sitting on their ass, and I think Zach Taylor has one more year left on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if it comes down to your starting quarterback is about ready to quit the sport, then maybe you might want to bring somebody in. So yeah, there is a chance that all four of these guys could lose their job. There's a chance that one of them could, or all three, or whatever. So for a division that isn't used to screwing around with head coaches, like imagine like a Browns Steelers game next year, and I think would have to be the first one ever, or the first one in 50 years, where both coaches are with the team for their first year. Like, if it's Browns Steelers next season to start the year out, you could be talking about two coaches making their debut, which the Browns, quite frankly, are pretty used to.
Yeah, it's been some
we've
time.
only had to deal with this in Pittsburgh, 3 times since 1969. So yeah, it's crazy.
And give us a little credit, though. We've done all right. We haven't had to fire a coach in some time. So,
Yeah, you've gone from firing too many coaches to, with now making the argument of you should have fired this one a year ago.
Yeah,
But-
Hey, you know what? A lot of stuff to unpack there in the AFC. I think we did a pretty good job, and we'll see how everything shapes out with Ravens Steelers. We'll see how you're feeling at around 10:30 Eastern time next week. And
At least it's a 7 o'clock kick, so I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of the stuff there, Rob. We'd be completely wrong if we didn't go look at the NFC here, because a lot of stuff going on there too. And I think we should take a look. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, as close as and as bottlenecked as everything is in the AFC is equally the same thing in the NFC. I just saw a graphic. I got SportsCenter on here in the studio.
Yeah.
The Lions are in 4th place in the NFC North at 8-8.
Dude.
So yeah, that's kind of how competitive this whole NFC is. You got Seattle right now. They're 13-3. They're the number 1 seed in the conference right now. But there's a possibility they could drop as far down as 6 or 7, depending on what this game against the Rams is going to do. You got the Bears up there. They seem to be pretty solidified in their division standing. They've already clinched up the NFC North.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia has done the same with the East. That was the first back-to-back winner the East has had in about 15 years.
Yeah.
And then, you have, a lot, the Niners at 12 wins, the Rams at 11, the Packers, they're, I guess bringing up the rear at 9. But yeah, I mean, it's just ultra competitive right now. I don't know where you want to start. We had a thriller Sunday night game. We had a pretty good, a game with Seattle and Carolina that had impact on 2 different divisions. And obviously, the Eagles and the Bills, with a cross-conference deal. And the Niners, to go back to the Sunday night game, they just keep winning, even though they are basically made out of duct tape and scar tissue at this point. I don't think anybody's healthy on that roster, but yet they got a chance to, I don't know if they do have a chance to be the number 1 seed in the conference, but they got a chance to be a top 2 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they can win the division next week. Again,
I don't know if that would be enough to put them as a number 1 seed, though.
It depends. Well, it depends what Chicago does. Chicago's 11-5 right now. If San Francisco wins next week, they'd be 13-4, and Chicago.
They would be the number 1 seed. They'd be the only other 13-win team besides.
That's what I'm saying. And
they'd be the only 14-win team in the deal.
Exactly. And Seahawks would be sitting there at 13 wins in this hypothetical as the 5th seed, more than likely. They would just swap spots. But yeah, so they have a chance to go from 5-1. And you know what? I think it's interesting, too, with the 49ers, Rob, because here's the thing. We've become so used to Kyle Shanahan 49er defenses just really like muddying up the game and winning some ugly 13-10, 17-14 games. We just talked about it, and you just brought it up, that Sunday night thriller, I mean, just a great game. And it was a shootout. I mean, this was a game that you would not expect the Niners to win a few years ago because they just didn't have necessarily enough offensive power. Because they've always had, McCaffrey, since he's been there, has been great. Kittle, one of the best tight ends of the game still. if not the best tight end in the game.
Well, he didn't even play today, too.
Exactly.
That was the other thing.
Exactly. But, receivers still kind of like a shaky thing. Ayuk being out, then moving off of Deebo Samuel in the offseason, trading him over to Washington. So, they've been trying to figure out with Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings. But so that's a bigger thing. Is like nobody would if you told me, hey, this game's going to go into the high 30s, into the 40s, and the Niners are going to win this game. I just don't know if I would have believed you. Which is another testament to the Chicago Bears, because 2-3 weeks ago I was telling you I just can't trust the Bears, but now it's like even in a loss, I think we may have watched a potential NFC Championship game today, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse. But I just think I think those were those were two very good teams that have it figured out. And anything thrown their way, they've figured it out this year, and it's going to be interesting. So that's my take. I think San Francisco is going to win this division, and that's not a slight on Seattle, who took care of business against Carolina today, but I think it's just a testament to the Niners, and they have that championship pedigree. And I understand I shouldn't probably use that word because they haven't won a Super Bowl with this collection, this roster, but we talk about franchises all the time and how much they mean to, or how much that championship pedigree means, establishing that. We talk Steelers, for example. You got the Super Bowls there. You got the Super Bowls in New England. You got the Super Bowls in San Francisco. I know it's been some time, but they have been there a few times since. They've been there, they went there against the Ravens. We just talked about that in 2012, and they made some appearances against the Chiefs. I think it's that championship pedigree, at least tasting how close you can get to there, that this Niners team understands that their window is eventually closing. Kittle's getting older. McCaffrey,
that window's about closed. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
this is the year. This is the
and
year.
it's
For the
also,
Niners.
the talent they do have, they're a very top heavy team with their veterans making a lot of money. And I don't know how much longer they can kind of keep everything together. Also, too, Mac Jones, it looks like he's going to be probably the next flavor of the week for a team looking for a quarterback. When we start talking about free agents for the Browns, I wouldn't be shocked if his name pops up. Going to the Kyle Shanahan quarterback rehabilitation camp. Ask Sam Darnold how that went. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, and, it's almost the same thing I can ask about the AFC. You got a lot of teams in here that don't have a lot of track records. You got, Darnold and the Seahawks, Mike McDonald, with the coach out there, he's been out there for a couple of years. It's still a new operation out there. I think we've all been waiting to see if Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson are for real. They'll have a chance to prove it in the playoffs. The Eagles have had their issues. I know they're the defending Super Bowl champs. At least they kind of got the experience. But, obviously, we've been talking about the drama that they've been, messing with there. Mm-hmm. The winner of the AFC South or NFC South, I'm not sure if anybody's going to really think about them as a serious contender in the playoffs. And then you got the Niners who are hurt. You got Jordan Love and the Packers. They've had their issues in the playoffs before. And that leaves Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, and the Rams. It's kind of like they're that version of Josh Allen and the Bills, only they got a ring. So, you are prime and ready to go at the top of this conference. If you're the Seahawks, the Bears, the Panthers, Bucks, whatever's going to come out of that, the Niners, to change the narrative on yourselves and see if you can surprise some people, because again, on both sides of the bracket, the usual suspects really aren't around. And even if the usual suspects were around in the NFC, it's been pretty much wide open all year.
Yeah. I mean, but I gotta give kudos again to Philadelphia. Big win today in Buffalo, a game that they were shutting Buffalo out till dang near the last 8 minutes, roughly under 10 minutes ago, about 8-9 minutes left in the game. Buffalo gets in the end zone and they make it competitive right at the end. And it was a nail biter, but Philadelphia is showing they can handle these types of games. And they're, like I said, I think they're just starting to form into that playoff Philadelphia mold, that team that has won the Super Bowl, did win it last year, put a beat down essentially on the Chiefs. So I mean, I agree with you, Rob. Philadelphia still got some problems going on. I still think they're very drama filled, but they took care of business today against an AFC contender, AFC playoff team, Buffalo, who's been there, Final Four teams before. So I think that's interesting. I agree with you about Carolina. We could talk about Carolina, Tampa Bay, Baker, Bryce Young. We could talk about all that. I think at the end of the day, and correct me if you disagree, I really think they're being served up on a platter for whoever loses that NFC West.
Yeah, I was just about to say that they're going to be a sacrificial. Now, we've seen dumb shit happen before, and if Tampa Bay does win, they will win the division with a losing record. They'll be 8-9.
Yeah.
Now, Carolina wins, they won't be much better, but at least they'll be on the other side of the Mendoza line. But yeah, we've seen crazy things happen where a team that has, I think the Saints did it about a decade ago, where you're 7-9 and you're going in there and you win a playoff game. So it wouldn't be. And again, we talk about Kyle Shanahan and him having his issues in big games, and remember he was the Atlanta offensive coordinator when they gave up that big lead in the Super Bowl to New England. Like, he's been around some pretty big failure moments. And that would be a hurdle for him to get over if it is going to be the Niners facing the Panthers or the Bucks. And we'll see what happens with Sam Darnold. He's had games where he's looked like Sam Darnold, New York Jet Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
So again, it all depends on what kind of, these games have been so close, and these teams have, every team has a questionable loss or two right now. If this was the college football playoff, there'd be a lot of bad losses for a lot of these great teams.
Yeah.
So,
And this too, Rob, you mentioned about the losing record for Tampa Bay. If they were to win the division next week, I believe that would make them the 7th NFL team in history to get to the playoffs with a losing record, which I'm kind of surprised because the NFC South have been pretty bad before, like recently. So, I'm surprised.
If you look at those 7 teams, I'm sure there's a lot of Carolinas and New Orleans in there. Somebody has to be here. Bring it on.
Yeah, no, for real. But I at least wanted to address, because we did talk about there's some division battles next week. And Carolina, Tampa Bay is one of them. And I believe you mentioned it'll be on Saturday at, I think you said 4:30, 4:25. If you get fast.
Yeah, it's part of a Saturday doubleheader right now on ESPN. It's going to be Panthers and Bucks are leading everything off at 4:30, and then the Seahawks and Niners. That's going to be the with all due respect to the morning to the first game, that's going to be the big boy table. That's going to be the adults table. That's going to be at 8:00 on ESPN. So. Yeah, there's a plethora of games at 1:00. You got about 6 games happening in that window. And then I was actually a little surprised. They split this up pretty good. There's actually 7 games happening in the 4:00 window. And Lions, Bears, that's not going to have a whole lot to do with much. Cardinals, Rams, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, Bills, Commanders, Eagles, Chiefs, Raiders, and then Chargers and Broncos. Chargers and Broncos might have a little bit to do with playoff seeding, but that 4:00 window is going to be pretty much, if you got something to do on Sunday, schedule it for 4 to 7.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be some free time in the day, that's going to be when it's going to be at.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm really excited. I know Double A, he's not here this week with us. He'll be joining us back next week on assignment, taking care of many Inside Edge network things, I'm sure. But Double A's mentioned it. He said it last week, Rob. Actually, he said, I'm excited for the NFL playoffs. And he said, this is probably the most excited I've been for the NFL playoffs in a long time. And I actually agreed with that statement from Double A, because we talked about it here in this segment alone. There's so much unknown about the AFC and the NFC. Even just looking at this graphic again of the NFC, it's like, man, okay, Philadelphia just won it, so you would think they're the favorites, and the Rams have that ring, and San Francisco's been close, and they've been to the Super Bowl. But, some of these guys, it's just so much unknown, and I'm excited. I'm ultimately excited. I think it's going to be interesting. I do agree San Fran and Seattle is going to be a fun game Saturday night. And I think ultimately, if you were to ask me right now, what team I trust the most out of this NFC 7 teams right now, because these are the teams. We'll just figure out who maneuvers around.
Yeah, we're now worried about order, yeah.
Right. Well, I take it back. In this graphic, it could switch to Tampa Bay. That's the only thing. But out of these teams that stand right now, and we'll throw Tampa Bay in there in case they do get in, out of all these teams, Rob, I truly, and I know they just played, it may seem a little recency bias, I truly think the San Francisco 49ers are the best team in the NFC.
They're playing the best. I think they are right now. And that's been the weird thing too with this. And The Rams have been the best team at a point in time. The Lions were best, and they're sitting on the outside looking in now completely. There's been a lot of candidates. Seahawks were talked about as the best team in the league for a while. Like everyone's kind of had their moment in the sun. And now we'll see, what happens when the weather gets cold, when the games get a little bit more important, when they're all nationally televised. And they're starting to actually play for a Lombardi trophy. So we will definitely we will keep you posted on what is happening for Sunday and the plans coming up next week. We actually have to sit down with Anthony and figure that one out because Lord knows we're not great at planning anything out more than a week in advance. But something will be happening for sure. We will be getting ready. We will be getting together for that, and all of that stuff happening on Sunday night and throughout the weekend in the NFL. But there are a lot of other sports actually happening. I know the NFL likes to convince you otherwise. They like to make you think it's the only thing happening on earth. But we do have a lot of things happening in the world of basketball. The Cavaliers are still wandering through the weeds. We thought they got out of it for a split second, but obviously they came crashing back down to earth in Madison Square Garden. We will get into the toughness problem that this team is having. Can they do anything? Will they do anything? Is there a move to be made? This is when Kobe Altman's going to have to make his money for sure. This is when he's going to earn it all because this roster is going to need a little bit of tweaking. But we'll get into that. We have some NCAA it seems like we always kind of just have a story of the week about the NCAA being stupid. It's either that or gambling. And sometimes it's the NCAA and gambling. But yeah, now the NCAA, there is a major issue happening across right now. College basketball is feeling it right now. And it could bleed over into the football ranks. Eligibility issues. We're having some problems with grown-ass men. Guys that have more gray in their beard than I do, enrolling in college and playing college basketball, some of who have European pro experience, G League experience, and Baylor just picked up somebody who was actually on an NBA draft board just a couple of years ago, and he's going to be playing pretty soon. We'll get into the recruitment nightmare, these eligibility issues. And then, the Guardians. Can somebody please let them know that free agency has started? That would be really cool. We'll get into that and so much more here on the main event. This is the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I am Rob Rozycki. We have the Moon himself, Eli Moon, over there making the peace sign. We will be right back. Smoke him if you got him. And we'll see you soon and finish up the show. The main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I am Rob Rozycki. We got Eli Moon. No double A Anthony Alford. He is in parts on. He might be in Dubai trying to secure some funding. I'm not quite sure.
Double A, man, he does quite a bit, Rob. We just never know where he's at.
I mean, who knows? I mean, everybody else is getting paid with Saudi money. Who he might be trying to do the same thing.
No.
We don't.
Yes,
he'll be back. What's up?
Oh, I took your thunder. I said we'll probably see him next week, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say he'll be back next week, and everything will be ready and rocking in 2026. But right now we're closing out 2025, talking a little NFL. We got some Week 18 scenarios that we just went over. We got the Browns and Steelers and all the drama and fallout that happened with that. Now let's move away from actual NFL football and remind everybody that there are other sports that are being played right now. First and foremost, we got stuff happening in the NBA. Mainly locally here with the Cavaliers, our old incarnation of this show. We always used to joke. We never really talked about the LeBron era Cavs unless they lost a game or two.
Right.
That's kind of the same way that this team has been built the last couple of years. And the issue is that they are losing a lot more than they've been winning the last 15 games or so, including a debacle on Christmas Day, just on Thursday afternoon. In Madison Square Garden. They were up by 17 points in the fourth quarter. New York storms back. Cleveland looks bad the entire, the last 7 minutes of the game, really. Donovan Mitchell said it was the best 42 minutes they had played all year, followed by the worst 6. The Cavaliers are having some toughness issues, and much like the Browns defense that we've been talking about from, at points in time, that they're pretty good until it actually gets on the line. The Cavaliers, even though the stats may not show it, whenever they need a big offensive rebound, whenever they need some presence down low, whenever they need some toughness, it's just not there. And the fact that it happened against New York, a team that they have historically had issues with, didn't make things any better. I know they beat a couple tomato cans right before that, New Orleans and Charlotte. But, the Cavaliers are having toughness issues, and I don't know if they can fix them as constructed right now.
I mean, one of the things you truly cannot teach, Rob, to be honest, is how to be tough on the court. I mean, you can try to get a little bit more of a tough nature to a player, but even just look back, even in the the Bad Boys era in the Pistons, they didn't teach Bill Laimbeer how to play tough. Bill Laimbeer was just a tough dude.
He had to be. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a good enough basketball player. He had to be. And I'd say that as somebody who loved Bill Laimbeer.
Fair. So maybe not the best example, but
no, that's exactly what you need. Like, a lot of cases, the stuff between the ears matters more than the physical talent.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot when we do talk about the Cavs on the show about Evan Mobley, and I know me and you kind of differ a little bit on who we should be holding more accountable when it comes to this Cavs core 4 and what we're trying to build. And Double A has brought up on this show before. He's talked about, hey, Kobe Altman believes in the core 4. Dan Gilbert, however, we've discussed, does not necessarily have the patience and will continue to pay this payroll if it's not going to produce results. The second apron makes it a little bit trickier. Obviously, we're going to talk about, do they make a trade? Can they make a trade? We talked about that before the break. It's interesting that we're in a position like this when all offseason the conversation was this is the year. Kind of like in the NFL in a way, how the Buffalo Bills, like this is the year for the Buffalo Bills. And the Cavs don't have to go through Jason Tatum, even though the Celtics are still playing good ball. They don't have to go through a Tyrese Halliburton. That Pacers team is pretty bad right now. And Pascal Siakam will let you know that. But regardless, this was the year that we should have been able to just make a run. And I get it. They've been hurt at times. We've addressed, they've had, 5, 6, sometimes I think 7 guys on the injury report, a lot of guys hurt. But Rob, at the end of the day, this is a team we were talking about with championship aspirations. So I'm going to hold them to the same accountability I did to the Guardians when we talked about the Guardians and the playoff run, because it would not be fair if I didn't. And this is a team that we are talking about potentially going and winning the championship. This could
At
be
least
the year.
Eastern Conference championship aspirations.
Yes.
Like if they lost to the Thunder, if they lost to Wembayama, okay, I think we can kind of live with that to a point. But if they don't make it at least to the Eastern Conference Finals, if not completely out of the East, then then there's going to be some consequences after that.
Exactly. And you know what? In the way, and I mean, we're going a little bit. We got to fix this first before we talk about, finals. But if we don't think that's a bigger issue, if we don't think a Donovan Mitchell-led team, Donovan Mitchell's in his prime, and he can't beat, and I know Wembanyama's a freak. He is the future of the league. If not, he's very quickly becoming the president of the league. And, OKC is a problem. But if we can't beat these teams with one of the best players in the league, a face of the league, then we got bigger issues. Let's completely go away from that for a moment because we're not even close to that. Right now, we're just seeing if we can make the playoffs. That's what it feels like. And that's the problem. And I think, Rob, to bring it full circle, we have to address what the true issue is with the Cavaliers, besides toughness, because they really have struggled with that since the first meeting with New York a few years ago in the playoffs where they got exposed. And the lights were too bright. But is it Evan Mobley that we should be holding more, accountable? You've asked that question. He's out right now. They're definitely feeling the impact of the Cavs.
Well, he's been back the last couple of games. He's actually come off the bench in the last two. It's been the first two ever he's done that.
Yes, my apologies. It's not starting yet. So he's coming back into the fold. But I'm saying he was out for a little stretch there. And Darius Garland missed a little bit at the beginning of the season and came back. Who are we supposed to hold more accountable? Darius Garland or Evan Mobley? I mean, I don't know what the issue is. I believe it's more of a Garland thing. I think they just need somebody that can go and light it up and can really complement Donovan Mitchell. That's where I feel.
The issue, and I know that we've been talking ad nauseum for years about can this backcourt coexist? Can Garland and Mitchell do its thing? And by and large, especially Darius Garland, he had a double-double in New York. He was 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists.
Mm-hmm.
He's been over 8 assists. I think the last 7 or 8 games, he's shooting 75% from 3-point. I think over the last 4 or 5. He's playing very, very well. Donovan's playing very, very well. And I think they have managed to coexist quite nicely, and they've learned how to do it over the last few years. Kenny Atkinson has helped that out. But to bring this back to what I opened the segment with, maybe the question that we should be asking ourselves is that front court okay? Are we tough enough with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley combined? I'm not trying to single out one of them right now. Jared Allen's supposed to be the rim protector. He is the closest thing in the NBA, modern NBA, to an old-fashioned Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm going to block your shots. I'm going to get your rebounds. I'm going to be a presence down there.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have the toughness that Olajuwon, Ewing, Lambeer, any of those guys had. And it shows. And then you throw in Evan Mobley, who's never going to be that type of player. Yeah, he's going to help you out rebounding. He's going to get some offensive rebounds. He's going to do his thing defensively too. We are talking about the reigning defensive player of the year after all. But he's more of a stretch 4 that can go out and cover a 3 or a wing.
Yeah.
He's not the rim protector guy.
Right.
So you really don't have a lot of physical presence underneath the hoop. And you're going to need that. You're going to need the rebounding. You're going to need the shot blocking. You're going to need shot disruption more than anything. And they don't have that right now. And I don't know who you trade in that situation. Jared Allen seems like a logical choice because you don't want to build around him. You want to build around Evan Mobley. But for that reason, you're going to be able to get more for Evan Mobley. You're going to be able to have a bigger deal for that. And quite honestly, too, it seems like talking about shit ad nauseum for years on end, we have been waiting for Evan Mobley to make that leap into a top 5 NBA, top 10 NBA player. And he hasn't yet.
Yeah, but
trying to figure out when that's supposed to happen. We're not talking about a dude who's 21 years old anymore. We're talking about somebody who's 24, 25, who's been in the league now for 5 years at this rate. It should be there on some level. It really is not. He's a good all-around player, but he's not a number 1. He's not a guy that can take over a game. You saw it happen earlier in the season. They tried to give him the keys to the car. And, it didn't really work out. Then Donovan, like the older brother, came in, swooped in, got hot for a few fourth quarters and bailed them out. That's not good enough anymore, obviously. We're seeing that happen with any team they after New York, they lost one to the Rockets last night. They got San Antonio technically tonight, Monday night.
Right.
So, this is going to keep on coming. And, if you don't think toughness is going to matter, Victor Wembanyama, in a few hours is going to blatantly disagree with that. So
yeah,
maybe it's frontline issues that they're having and not so much the backcourt.
I think it's just a matter, and I know it sounds silly to say, but right now with the state of the Cavaliers, it's just a matter of a week we talk. That's why I feel like it is, because I think Garland, yes, he had a good game in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks, and but at the end of the day, and I don't want it to seem like I'm a Darius Garland, like it doesn't, like I just don't rock with him. I like Darius Garland. I think he's a good player. I just don't know if he's the right fit, and I think he's inconsistent. Now I will address what you're talking about. The toughness, it's been very apparent, is not there. Mitchell Robinson, every time he lines up against the Cavaliers, just is so excited because he gets to just bully them for 48 minutes. And, and it's any team, really. Thomas Bryant, Cavalier. What did Thomas Bryant do to us? Bully us. Anytime he was on the floor. I mean, there's a reason the Cavs went on God. I'm like, dang, he really took care of us. So let's go and get him on our team. I mean, it's been, mention any team, Rob, and it's been a problem, toughness. Even the first round matchup, winning against Orlando last year. I mean, it
was a lot closer than it should have been.
Yeah, Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, and I'm not discrediting those guys in terms of crashing the glass and all that, but they're not necessarily known for a physically tough team. So it was just kind of mind blowing that the Cavaliers. It's still mind blowing that the Cavaliers just can't figure out the heart and soul of this, because the talent is there, and I understand the Mobley disagreement. And we're expecting more out of him, and I can appreciate that because we did draft him 3rd overall. However, he has a Defensive Player of the Year. And I think we're on track with the development. Could we get more for him? Sure. I don't know, bro. I just think at the end of the day, they have to shake it up. The second apron makes it so tough, but if they could get a Giannis, and I know that's dreaming big, but somebody of that stature, it completely changes the game. Completely.
Well, the issue is, too, and you just brought up Thomas Bryant, throwing him on the roster. They brought Lonzo Ball in. Larry Nance Jr.'s back too. There are some tough dudes. They try to get the bench tougher. Mm-hmm. And, you got some, rookies and second-year players, Tyrese Proctor, helping out, doing a lot of good stuff for this team. Mm-hmm. But the issue is, especially when you talk about toughness, you mentioned the bad boy Pistons. Nobody questioned Isaiah Thomas's toughness. Joe Dumars. You bring up Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn. No one, Dennis Rodman. Nobody questioned those guys' toughness. Nobody questioned Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, whatever, the core of those Bulls teams were. Same with Draymond Green and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and all those guys. Toughness starts at the top. You can't just hope that, your 9th and 10th and 11th guy on the bench is going to give you what you need. Matthew Dellavedova helped out the 16 Cavs, but LeBron James and Kyrie Irving were the catalysts in that situation. So you're going to have to figure out, can you bring that toughness out? Is that something that can be acquired and can be acquired reasonably quickly?
Yeah.
If not, then you are going to have to talk about shaking up that core 4. And, if you want a Giannis here, you're probably going to have to throw an Evan Mobley in there to do it. And with the Cavaliers, and we talk about the second apron, we talk about how much money they're spending. They don't have the luxury right now, the way this team is constructed, to wait 2 more years for Evan Mobley to become the player that we all know he can be. You might need to bring in Evan Mobley 3 years into the, later into the process, and that is basically Giannis. And, if the Cavaliers are in win now, then I don't want to hear about developing superstars. I don't want to hear about developing anybody. You need to bring somebody in here that has won a title, that knows what it takes, and can be and somebody who is offensively good enough to make Donovan Mitchell the legitimate second option on the team.
Yeah,
but, that's what you need. And if it might be Evan Mobley to do it, then that's what's going to have to happen. But right now, that front line is having a lot of issues. And now I just don't want to put it on them. The guards aren't cutting. The team ain't playing great defense right now. It seems like they are 12 guys as opposed to one team. And that's a problem.
Yeah, big problem. And ultimately, the big thing here with the Cavaliers is this. I mean, what I've come to a conclusion on is that this roster, as constructed, will not go far in the playoffs. And I know, and it may seem a little early to say that, but we're about halfway through the season. And I mean, All-Star break will be here in about 2 months.
32 games into the season. 33 will be tomorrow.
So I mean, 41 halfway. Yeah, dang near halfway. So it's like, I just don't think this roster is it, Rob. I don't know what you do. I mean, I got to put my thinking cap on, this week and look at what I would maybe do, like see what salary cap works. But I'm not the GM of the team. Kobe Altman is. And so at the end of the day, it's going to be what he decides. But here's the thing. We talk about these young cores and building a championship roster to compete for years to come. At the end of the day, that sounds amazing. And for teams like OKC that found 30 to 40 first-round picks in this 10-year stretch, sure, they are in a position that is very unique. So we can't compare OKC's, and I'm not saying you are, but nobody can compare OKC's situation to any other team in NBA. And maybe even the history of the NBA. I know that sounds a little extreme, but no team, I think, has stockpiled this amount of draft picks in this short amount of time.
No, we thought Boston 5 years ago was doing, and it's the same kind of philosophy. But the fact that they've made these trades to get these picks and the picks have hit. You got a lot of these guys that were the second, third, fourth pick, which in a lot of cases can be a dude who's out of the league in 3 years. Right. But, when they turn into guys like Chet Holmgren and, that core out there, and then you also throw in the fact, too, that along with all those picks in that Paul George deal, they also got SGA.
Exactly.
So not only did you get all the picks, but you also got the reigning MVP, right now, a few years later.
Yeah.
And in that Paul George mess, they still got some picks coming at them. They got the Clippers' first-round pick this year that's unprotected. So we have a situation, to tell you how unprecedented this is, that you have a team that could, in theory, break the Golden State Warriors' single-season win record, win their second straight NBA title, and have the number one overall pick going into 26-27.
Right. And the Thunder are an interesting case. Obviously, the Spurs have their number right now, but that's a whole different discussion. My point, though, Rob, on the Thunder is they're so unique, and you just, hammered it home with that point, that we can't compare the Cavaliers' young core, any of these young, these teams' young core to the Thunder. They're unique. You're not going to see that. So ultimately, the goal of a young roster is to figure out what you have that you can build to a championship roster. Is this nucleus going to be that, and you're just going to build around it, or do you need to make some moves? The Cavs are at that roadblock right now, where they are at a dead stop, Rob. And Madison Square Garden on Christmas Day, that was a clear indicator. That should have been a double-digit win, and we're having a different conversation on today. I think it's Monday now officially. But, at the end of the day, it would have been a different conversation. However, we're not having that conversation. We're having a conversation about the Cavaliers running out of gas, not being tough enough to finish the job against the New York Knicks in a tough road game, but a game they should have won. And that's the problem. They have hit a roadblock, and now they got to figure out what to do.
And the nice thing is, and where the Cavaliers are at in relationship to the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, as you said, walking in game one was wide open. Mm-hmm. And, yes, the Pistons have gotten a nice look. The Pistons and Knicks have kind of separated themselves from everybody.
Right.
But if the Cavaliers can pick up 3 games, in the standings and move from 7.5 out to 4.5 out, they're the 3 seed.
Right.
That's how much they can jump. So they still have time if they can get this stuff together, which is the biggest problem. That's going to be the bigger problem than actually moving up in the East, because right now they're a 3-game win streak away from being the 5 or 6 and actually being in the playoffs. Right.
Yeah.
Right. As it stands right now, they're the 8th seed. They were playing Miami in the first round of play-in.
Yeah.
But but that's how close everything is. Now it's just going to be up to Kobe Altman to figure it out. This is when he earns his money. This is when he's got to pull a rabbit out of a hat. And if it's got to be like a Kevin Durant 16 deal, then it might have to work out that way. But we'll see. But yeah, I mean, as I said, the Cavaliers, it doesn't get any easier. They're going to be facing San Antonio in a few hours. Actually, Monday night is going to be on Peacock. For those of you who don't have NBA TV, so if you want to watch that game, you can do that. But right now, it's going to be up to Kobe to figure out how to maneuver this roster. And is it going to be a tweak, or does it have to be a major overall? You mentioned the Bad Boy Pistons. They had Mark Aguirre back in the day. They grabbed him from Dallas, or was it Aguirre? Who was They had a big scorer come from Dallas that was going to help everything out, and it wasn't working. And it seemed kind of laughable. Adrian Dantley.
Yep.
It seemed like kind of laughable that they could trade him mid-season, but they kind of had to look around and make a tough move. And that's what Kobe's going to have to do. It's like a Super Bowl coach. You're 14-2 all season. You're the number one seed, and you're getting your ass kicked in the first half, and you have to go in and explain to your team that what got us here and our bread and butter is not good enough right now, and we have to make a change. This core four, which got the number one overall seed in the East last year, which has a lot of talent, is good. Do you want to be great? And you're going to have to risk something, and you're going to have to change something up. And that's a tough thing to do for a GM of a team who, by and large, it's been working for the last 4 years. This core has done well comparatively. And it's going to be tough for them to change it, but we'll see what happens. We got to move on, though, because quite honestly, it's 10 after 1 here, and I got to be at the radio station about 5.5 hours.
Yeah, I got you.
So, yeah. But I mean, we obviously we'll have time to talk about this throughout the we're not even at the All-Star break yet. So
yeah, exactly.
There's plenty of time. Trade deadlines in February, so plenty of time with the Cavaliers. But moving on to other things happening in the world of our sports right now, we have a situation with Baylor basketball, and normally when we bring up Baylor in college athletics, it's not good. This is the home of Art Briles. This is the home of a lot of scandal with the basketball team from 20 years ago. Carlton Dodson, look that one up. He is, I think, in jail for murder one. So, Baylor, though, this isn't nearly as bad, but it is still kind of groundbreaking. Baylor announced over the Christmas break, basically, I don't know if it was Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or shortly thereafter, that they picked up a brand new 7-footer, James Njayi, which, normally nobody really gives a damn about a midseason pickup for a college basketball team. The issue is, though, is that he was drafted by the Pistons 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And as his rights have been traded to the Hornets, he has significant G League experience. He just played there last year, or this offseason here. Last season he played for the G League. He's played out in Europe. He was playing in Turkey and in Spain. He is a 22-year-old grown-ass man. And now Baylor has a brand new freshman 7-footer that they got midseason that has a significant amount of experience. And that's not the only one. A lot of other teams are picking up players with G League experience, with European experience. And a lot of experts are saying right now it's just a matter of time until somebody who's actually logged NBA minutes is going to be a college freshman, sophomore, whatever, and play in the NCAA tournament after they played in an NBA game. And right now it's just, it's crazy. You can look at it right now and say there's no rules. Technically, they have a 5-year window. That's the rule that they're exploiting right now. If you go right out of high school into, or even after a year of college, if you go into the pros, you basically have 5 years to say, I fucked up. I got to go back to college. Let me go get an education here. And that's what they're exploiting right now. And we're seeing college basketball change in a way that I don't think anybody expected.
Yeah, not good, obviously, for the sport. And it's worrisome, honestly, too, because what is this going to lead to, right? And we were talking a little bit pre-show, Rob, about James Najee, obviously. I believe lottery pick too. I believe by the Pistons. I want to say he was like the 13th pick, and I may be wrong on that, but I remember Najee being drafted, and it's a problem because right now it's a guy that hasn't really made too much of an NBA presence, but he has been drafted, so he has been proven to be professional worthy, and he has a ton of experience playing against professionals. It's not worrisome right this moment, but it is worrisome for so what happens when the stars that
22nd overall.
22nd. Okay, so I was a little off, but still first round pick. And I mean, usually the NBA, we've talked about that draft. If you're not in the first round, it's like you're really taking a flyer on you. There's some second round picks that have been studs, Draymond Green, other guys in Jokic, Nikola Jokic, but back
to Sam Merrill, actually. You want to get down to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I was looking at the wrong player here. There's actually another guy named Njayi in the NBA. Let me see where he was drafted here. That dude plays for the Nuggets. But yeah, keep on going here.
You're good. You're good. But so I mean, it's worrisome, Rob, when it gets to the point where what happens if the guy who just wasn't a star but is playing significant NBA minutes and just isn't working out and go back to school? I just think it causes too much of a muddied situation. I'm all for NIL. I love it. I love the athletes getting paid. Go get your money. I love the idea that, we're expanding college football playoffs and in football, and in basketball, you got the 64, 68 team tournament. You got all this crazy stuff going on. But this is actually crazy. Not even in a good way. This is not good. And I think it's going to muddy up the sport of basketball. And I think it's a conversation to be had about, if it's happening in basketball, who's to say it doesn't happen in football? And I guess the one thing you could say is, football, you have to play 3 years. So whereas college basketball, you only have to do the 1 year, and then you can go to the pros, to the NBA. But I don't like it, man. I don't like it. It's like you took that chance on yourself. This has been a discussion for the last 10 years with the NBA, and I mean longer than that. John Wall was making it cool back in 2010. So, one and dones, that is taking a chance on yourself. Does it work out? A lot of times we've seen it work out a ton of times. But if it doesn't work out, unfortunately, you can't blame anybody else but yourself. And you have to pivot to what your options are. And
if it is Europe, if it is
whatever it is. But guess what? College should not be the option because you've advanced from there. You have proven you are now a professional at this game. So now you cannot go back to the collegiate level. Mm-hmm. That's not fair. And I don't really have any other better explanation except for it's just not fair. And it's really gonna look bad on the sport when we have 32-year-olds playing college basketball and 19-year-olds playing in the NBA. I just don't understand what we're doing.
Well, and more on football in a second here, because it is impacting football even as we speak. Just to clear this up too, Njayi declared for the 23 NBA draft. He was selected 31st overall, which meant he was in the second round. If he would have been in the first round, it would have been a guaranteed contract, and he wouldn't be playing with this crap right now. The two-way contract is the problem. Is the situation.
Right.
And then, he was the Pistons traded him to the Hornets, and somebody who is now playing for Baylor basketball was cannon fodder in the Karl Anthony Towns trade. He is technically a New York Knickerbocker right now. He was involved in that 3-team trade. So this is a little nuts. And I think what we're going to see, what you were just saying, regardless of age, the good players are going to be in the NBA. The less than good ones are going to be playing in college. And it's going to turn into a true minor league where, you do have these, it's almost like a G League extension with just better brand names on the teams. Instead of the Canton Charge, it's going to be North Carolina. But that's what we're going to be seeing here. And the guys that I feel bad for are the legitimate student athletes. If it is, this 7-footer, who's played against real pros, who's dealt with NBA players, I feel bad for the 19-year-old, chemistry major who wants to go be a pharmacist in a few years, and wants to play basketball, but he is facing just a different species at this point. And then also, too, when it comes down to recruiting, we're starting to see it happen in college football. Florida State doesn't have time for high school players. That's why they're so volatile. That's why one year they're great, the next year they're horrible, because they want transfer portal. They want older players. It's just like a veteran NBA team. They don't have time for rookies if they want to win now. They want to have guys. They would rather have Coastal Carolina develop a quarterback for a couple of years, and then they'll take them for 2 years or a year, or whatever.
Right.
We're starting to see, Miami's been doing that. Carson Beck, Cam Ward,
Indiana, Mendoza.
It's all just been 1 year dudes. Yeah. So these young players, there's no time for them anymore. And we're forgetting what the system was there all about. What was there to begin with. Now to bring it to football.
Yeah.
He's going into the NFL, Diego Pavia. We didn't talk about him at all with Browns quarterbacks because I don't think anybody's really taking a 5'8" quarterback seriously. But he's going to the pros.
He was the second. He was runner up. He let it.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, and again, great college player doesn't necessarily mean great pro player.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
But one thing he is doing though, he's leading a lawsuit with 25 other NCAA players, college football players, saying that Pavia, who's a senior this year, technically, should get 2 more years of college eligibility because his JUCO ball should not count towards his eligibility. And he is citing this Baylor transaction as that, saying, hey, if his European experience didn't count for eligibility's sake, if his NBA experience didn't, then why should my JUCO experience count towards my eligibility? So we could see guys that in theory do 3 years of JUCO and then 4 years in the NCAA. Maybe 4. It could be 5 or 6, depending on injury waivers, red shirts, whatever going on. So we're getting we're paving the way for 24, 25, 26-year-old college athletes being a fairly normal thing.
Yeah.
And what's that going to do to the actual, again, why was this system in play? You wanted to have college interscholastic programs 100 years ago because you wanted students to be able to, get exercise, be competitive, school pride, all of this happy stuff. And it's gone. It's just not there anymore.
I feel like we live in an upside down world. Like the more we keep explaining this story, it's like, so like, I don't understand. So like, are they all just going to be universal leagues and like, you just go to what league you sued at and like, that's just what it is? Cause like, I just don't understand. I really don't get it. And Rob, you brought up a few of these, cases, even like Oklahoma. I saw this one, linebacker Owen Heineke. He is appealing to the NCAA for a 6th season because of his lacrosse background. Basically he had played lacrosse at Ohio State before transferring over to Oklahoma. But he's appealing for that extra year because he played a year basically lacrosse. I read a little bit into this, I got to dive a lot more into it, but like basically he didn't even play too much. So he's saying, hey, look, I didn't really do lacrosse. So like, I should be able to get another year. I guess like
that's bullshit.
Yeah. It's like, dude,
because he used eligibility. He didn't use it for football, but he used it for another sport. And that was his choice.
That's what I'm saying. Like you chose, like we all get options in this life. We all have choices. You get your 4 years. If you redshirt, you get 5. If you stay all 5, especially in football. You don't see it in basketball anymore, really, at all, ever. But, like, in football especially, you get those choices. You get your choices as a student athlete. You can leave, especially in basketball, whatever you want. But it's like, it's kind of like leaving home, Rob. I kind of think of it like leaving home. We've all had to leave home at one point. And when you leave home, you usually, you keep moving on. You go get your future, you go figure out what life's about. Now, it's a little different because we have family, we all got families out there that love us. So, they welcome us back with open arms. But mostly when you leave home, you don't come back to home. And like home is like college in this way, and they're moving out to the NBA. So why are you coming back?
Well, and I think this rule was originally put in place to make sure that, because, there are stories of lives being messed up by making this decision poorly.
Right.
And, it's not crazy that a 16, 17-year-old kid can get bad advice. That being said, I do like the rule they need to tweak it. It shouldn't be 5 years. You shouldn't have, up until you're basically 24 years old, 23 years old. Make it a calendar year. Make it one, like if you come out and you screw up and you're 19 years old, you realize, okay, very quickly I am in over my head. We can go back and do a year. Like that, I can see that being understandable. But, and then with some ramifications. If you go to Europe and play, then no, you're done.
Yeah.
Maybe if you go to the G League, okay, I understand it. That's where a lot of these guys do go anyway. But yeah, they can't, but the thing is though, with NIL though, it's getting so blurred now. What's the difference in the NCAA in a lot of people's eyes from somebody getting paid to play in Turkey compared to somebody getting paid to play in Chapel Hill? Because now that we're no longer, nobody's an amateur anymore. So what are we preserving? And I think that's what the NCAA is kind of looking at too.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem. I mean, this is just like the tip of the iceberg with this. I'm sure we'll be talking about this probably very, soon.
Well, we'll see what happens with that Pavia lawsuit. All of a sudden, if JUCO now, but again, he's arguing what's the difference between spending 2 years in JUCO and spending 2 years in fucking Turkey?
But it was college. And
it's not NCAA ball though.
I get it, but it's college eligibility. I don't know, man. And there needs to be, I don't know. I think there needs to be just better structure.
There has.
I mean, like at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not saying that maybe it should be like an age cutoff, but I'm sick of seeing the 28. I'm 28 years old, so nobody can sit there and be like, dude, you're mad at 28-year-olds. I just don't like seeing like a 28, 27, 28-year-old playing against somebody who's 19, 20 years old. It's
a professional. Because, it'd be different if you decided that you wanted to see if you were a hooper and you wanted to go play for Cleveland State or something.
Right.
You haven't used 1 second of your college eligibility. You've never played professionally anywhere. Same with me. If I wanted to be like the dude on the news who's 61 years old and somehow a middle linebacker in D3, there shouldn't be anything against that. That's you and me doing what the system kind of wants us to do. We're enrolled at the school. We want to play. We're going to play. Mm-hmm. When you're taking advantage of the system and turning it into a career, turning it into a money-making endeavor, that's the issues that we're having here. That's why these guys are sticking around. Miami had a tight end, I think, who was 27 years old last year.
Right.
They wouldn't be doing that if you couldn't pick up a quick $100K, doing some bullshit no-show job. And, fraternizing with college co-eds the entire time.
Right.
Christ, if somebody offered me that deal for $100K, I'd have to think twice about it.
Bro,
I do get that. And then you also throw in the idea, too, the going rate for a starting quarterback in the transfer portal this year is $5 million. If you use the salary slot structure from the 25 draft, your average NCAA transfer portal quarterback will be making more money than all but the top 6 picks in the NFL draft. So there's money to be had here, and that's why these guys are sticking around.
Yeah, and kind of to put a bow on this, Rob, because I think we're on the same page. It's Najee, James Najee, because we brought, he was the beginning of this conversation. Who's to say you don't make more money at Baylor this upcoming basketball season? Or right now when he gets rolling with Baylor, then what he was making in the G League or NBA or overseas
or in Europe, yeah. I'm sure that's what it was. I'm sure. Hey, it was nothing more. Instead of Cleveland and Detroit and New York being on the list, it was a free agent deal, and you had Turkey, the G League, and college. And college ended up being the highest bidder. That's what it was. He's
gonna go back and get some money at Baylor. He's gonna try to. I don't know what you gain. What are you going to gain from going and playing against college kids? You already proven you're one of the best of the best. To get drafted in the top 31 picks is saying something. I get you one of the first rounders, so saying something. So, okay, so maybe you go back to college, go make some money on the NIL money, and then you go back and you try to become a first rounder. I guess that's the best scenario, but I don't know. I don't like
who knows at this rate? And then, who's to say, too, that he doesn't, finishes out the season in Baylor and then transfers somewhere else?
Right.
You got these dudes who have been, I think there's a quarterback for Coastal Carolina. He's on his 6th school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, hell, look at Dylan Raiola, too. Same kind of thing.
Right. And now with Najee, he was a freshman when he came out, right? He was a freshman when he went to the draft. So he technically have 3 years of eligibility in college? Is that how that works?
Yeah. I mean, assuming rules matter, yeah, that would be
yeah.
under the old system, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, crazy, Rob. I mean, that's probably one of the crazier things we talked about today. Just I can't believe it, and now it makes me think maybe I should go try to ball out.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what that's there for. Like if you want to just go be a student, you're not trying to cheat the system and gain a couple years, and get into the draft. You would just be a music major at Baldwin Wallace, and you want to play receiver, or you want to play point guard, or you want to play whatever. Like that's what that's there for.
Yeah,
in theory, anyway.
Dude, it's getting so muddied. It's getting so muddied. I mean, I feel like we talk about it every week. It's just getting so muddied, and I'm for a lot of it. I'm for the players getting paid. I'm for all this. But now when we start doing all this, well, you can switch and go back and all that. I don't like it. Not a fan.
Yeah, like the players need to get paid. I don't think anybody who's in the comments section saying that we're saying otherwise is full of shit. But they need to get paid, but they also need to have some structure. And I think, and my closing point on this, what the NCAA has to do is something they did not want to do. The reason why they came up with student athlete, that term, I think that was in the 70s they came up with that. Could be a little bit before.
Right.
But they came up with that to avoid using the term employee. And because the word employee brings up a lot of stuff, insurance, workplace safety. All of a sudden, these guys are closer to a factory worker legally.
Right.
They're closer to the janitor than they are to a normal student.
Right.
And what they're going to have to do is scrap that. And they're going to have to make these guys employees. And they're going to have to sign them to contracts. Because once you bring in contracts, and we're not talking about NIL deals that look like they can get blown apart whenever they want. We're talking about contracts. And, if it's a 1 year, 2 year, 4 year, whatever it would be, that would be the way to kind of ensure the money structure, to ensure, and NIL deals anyway when it comes down to it, and to ensure the fact that these teams don't have to recruit every one of their players every year. You're Ryan Day, and, you got a backup quarterback who's pissed off that he's the backup quarterback. He's not going to work harder to beat out Julian Sand. He's going to transfer to Bowling Green. He's going to transfer to Iowa State. He's going to transfer to Duke.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that he's happy if you want to keep him around. And it's just not cool. Or you got a receiver who thinks that he should be getting the ball more. All right, we'll go to an air raid offense. We'll take care of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're seeing tweets nowadays. Of such and such college re-signed quarterback so and so. I'm like, it's just so crazy to see nowadays re-signed. It's just crazy. But it makes it. If you like watching college football, okay, a good game's a good game. But if you care anything about the guys in the jerseys and any sort of any sort of carryover from year to year, it's just not happening. But I'm sure we'll be able to talk about this when more developments happen. And this story is not done for sure, but this is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. We do have Eli Moon. I am Rob Rozycki. No Anthony Alford. He'll be back next week. He is in Dubai right now securing funding for something. We don't know what. But we've been just kind of going through our last segment here where all of this stuff, basically everything other than football. Yeah.
Moon, do you have anything else to kind of go over before we figure out what we have learned?
No, I mean, nothing super crazy, Rob. I did want to just mention, I don't think we've mentioned it on the show. We've talked about Bud Crawford a few times on this show. I just wanted to say congratulations on the retirement for him. He had some stuff going on, I believe, with the WBC where they were trying to have him pay his commission fees for his title. You
basically have to pay them when you win a title.
Yeah, and it's
one of the slices of the pie went out of the purse. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And he just had the biggest fight of his life against Canelo Alvarez. Won that fight. It was awesome. I got to watch it live when I was in Texas. So it was great energy, just so cool. And it was just cool. So Bud had this stuff with the WBC where they stripped him, removed the title from him, vacated it. And he announced his retirement, I believe, last week. I want to say the beginning of last week, if not the week before. So very recently. So I'm probably not super news, but I did want to at least just address it and say, one of the best boxers of this generation is retiring, and we've talked about him on the show. So just wanted to tell him happy retirement, and maybe we'll see him fight Jake Paul.
Well, speaking of people who should retire, yeah. Have they located all of his teeth yet?
Well, he said
we were. I didn't get a chance to talk with you guys last week right after that fight happened. Yeah, the Anthony Joshua beatdown.
We aired it. We aired the knockout like 3 different times when we talked about it. So you would.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there were so many different little moments that you could take from it. Yeah, and I'm sure, Jake Paul understands that a lot of people wanted to go see his fights and tune in to watch him get his ass kicked. He finally got his ass kicked. So. We'll see what happens with him too, because I don't know if that's going to be the end of him as a fighter, because, when you lose something like that, you look at the world of pro wrestling, like all of a sudden when that, that luster's taken off, when that, Goldberg after the winning streak wasn't quite Goldberg anymore,
Right.
If he's going to have to resort to fighting tomato cans or, 50-year-old fighters or stuff like that, then maybe that's one thing. But, Anthony Joshua, I think, proved to the entire world that Jake Paul, although he has made strides as a fighter, is not a world-class championship level fighter.
No, I think the best route for him, and it's kind of been, talked about
promotion too,
social media. Yeah. But honestly, the biggest thing is going to work with his brother Logan in WWE and just being himself, just being a guy that people
would be a perfect, and I don't know how trained he is in a wrestling ring. He would, and his brother's great at talking anyway, but he would be like a perfect like chicken shit manager, like a Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, something like that that'll just that can interfere, that maybe like a little bit like the Freebirds too with Michael Hayes, where he was technically the manager at times, but he could also wrestle.
Yeah, the Freebird rule. Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, well, I mean, if he wants to stay in boxing, he is a hell of a promoter. He does get a lot of steam around those fights and a lot of attention towards it. And he's done great. You brought it up for women's boxing. So he's a good promoter. I don't know if he needs to be on the card though.
I mean,
sure that maybe a few oral surgeons might be agreeing with that point right now.
Dude, that was rough. I mean, he's the Serrano Taylor fights that he's had on the Jake Paul, his cards have been great. I mean, some of the best women's boxing matches of the year, if not the best women's boxing matches over the last few years. So I mean, interesting. But yeah, I think the best route, Rob, would just be going. I mean, they already got Paul Heyman, and Double A will talk about it on the Side Hustle podcast with Kyle Cornell later this week. They just did their awards, and man, a lot of controversy there. But I think the best route for Jake Paul is going over there with Logan Paul and Paul Heyman and the Vision and all those guys, and just being a bad guy. I mean, either way, this isn't the last we've seen of him. As much as people want to think, well, he's just going to go away now, right? No, he posted 2 days after the fight on a private jet with a bunch of money and stuff that he probably shouldn't be posting, like firearms and everything. I mean, like, just crazy. But like, yeah, that's not the last we've seen of him. So that's all I got, Rob. I think we did a pretty good job covering the news and notes. A very heavy football weekend, though.
Yeah, a lot of football going on this week. Let's figure out what we've learned so we can get these fine people on their way 2.5 hours into this process here.
Yeah.
Eli, do you want to head this up first?
Yeah, I absolutely don't mind at all. So what I learned this weekend, during this winter season, I've been thinking a lot about goals and what I want 2026 to look like. And I think this is my opportunity to tell anybody that's listening, everybody out there that's tuned in for the almost 2.5 hours we've been on air. Thank you. And this is me to tell you, it is now December 29th. We are on the East Coast. We are about an hour and a half into the 29th of December. That means 2026 hasn't started yet. However, in my mind and in your mind, it should have already started about a week ago, if not earlier than that. I'm prepping for what 2026 is going to look like on a personal level, with music, with this show here on Main Event and the Inside Edge Network. I got Lahele, the collective the guys, our music collective, we are creating a great atmosphere in the music community. And I'm proud of LaHaley. I want to push with that, the collective, and keep growing there. I want to grow with Main Event and the Inside Edge Network. And that's where I'm focused. And I'm focused on personal things. Like I want to, I'm a vapor. I get my nicotine fix. I want to quit vaping. I want to stop drinking as much pop. So I'm just being cognizant and aware of my goals and where I want to be in 2026. So this is my message. What I learned this weekend is it is a few days till the new year, but the new year in your mind should have already started because it's already started in mind, and I'm ready to rock on the music front with the guys and the collective, on the Main Event front with Rob and Double A, and just in life. So that's what I learned this weekend. Get ready. 2026 is already here. You might as well just start rocking like we're in a new year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, the date is an arbitrary thing. It's all about a state of mind situation here.
Uh-huh.
What I have learned, and I have been learning a lot of things about this baseball team of ours here in town, the Cleveland Guardians. This week I have been learning who Cody Hewer is. I have been learning who Sean Armstrong is. I've been learning who Colin Holderman is. I have been learning who Justin Bruheel is, if I'm saying that gentleman's name correctly.
Okay.
Because that is the Guardians free agent class as of right now. Yes, I understand that they re-signed Austin Hedges. They brought back Dave Fry. A few arbitration guys. Matt Festa is coming back. For those of you who loved him last year in the middle relief role, I'm sure he will get promoted and probably move into the late innings right now. But I'm learning who these people are, and it's frustrating. It's very irritating for the Guardians fan base right now. And I know it's more of the same. This is the same drill, different offseason. The Guardians are great at not signing anybody. The last big contract they signed, I believe, was Edwin Encarnacion. And we're now talking about, I believe, the Obama administration.
Yep.
It's been a while. This team has been scared off a little bit with that Edwin contract, a lot with the Michael Bourne, Nick Swisher fiasco from about 15 years ago. A lot of the free agent money they spent on the offensive side of the lineup has been bad money, and that has made them gun shy. They don't like to spend money as it is, and it's frustrating. We are seeing other teams, the Pirates signing Ryan O'Hearn. By the way, that was the first multi-year free agent deal they've signed since Octavio Dotel. And I think that was about 10 years ago. The Pirates are signing people. The Tampa Bay Rays are signing players. The Oakland, Las Vegas, Sacramento A's are signing players. Now that Mark Fisher got the hell out of Oakland, he found where his wallet's at. We are seeing a lot of these smaller market teams go in and get some talent. And Pittsburgh, I think, is a great idea, even though it's a pitcher compared to a hitter. They have a once-in-a-generation pitcher in Paul Skeens. They need to put some people with him to give him a chance to actually win some ball games. Cleveland has a once-in-a-generation third baseman. They need to put an offense together that isn't just him and Stephen Kwan, and we just hope for the best. And I know that they will be doing what they have been always doing, talking up Chase DeLauder, talking up Daniel Schneemann, talking up Kyle Manzardo, talking up all of these young players that could be breaking through the glass ceiling and getting up into the majors and hopefully contributing on a big league level. But Jose Ramirez is on the wrong side of 30. We have talked about on this podcast about him doing interviews, expressing his frustration with the team. The window, we talk about a championship window with the Cavaliers. The championship window with this Cleveland Guardians team is open as long as Jose Ramirez wants it to be. And the more and more he is the only show in town, more and more he is the only hope. He is our Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are only hope to save this planet. As long as that keeps on going, the shorter he's going to keep that window open. And the Guardians, with like every other major league team, they're looking at a work stoppage coming up in just a couple of years, or just a year or so, less than a year now, December 1, 2026. And where some of these other teams, be it the Tampa Bays of the world, the Kansas Cities of the world, the Oaklands of the world, the Florida Marlins are signing players. When these guys are making roster additions to try to maybe eke out a playoff run, a championship, whatever, a winning season in some cases, before this work stoppage starts, the fact that the Cleveland Guardians, and I'm not saying they need to cave to every whim and desire of their fan base, but the fact that they have had people screaming for years and years and years about getting an offense together that can help out Jose and get this team some victories. If this team averages 4.5 runs a game, they're winning 95 games and they're a World Series contender.
Yeah.
And watching this team with a number 29 in in batting average, in slugging percentage, in on base, in OPS. They're a bottom 10 team in home runs. They're a bottom 5 team in RBIs. They are a bad offense. And to see this team go out and make moves that make me have to remember who the fuck Cody Hewer is in the bullpen, who Sean Armstrong is, who Colin Holderman is, who Stuart Fair. Oh, okay, that's an outfielder. We agreed to an outfielder with a minor league contract. But the fact that they have addressed the bullpen, which is a strength of this team, while not even touching the offense, shows tremendous arrogance on their end with their player development system, just thinking that it's going to solve things, and a tremendous level of tone deafness with the fan base. Because this $50 ballpark pass is only going to be tempting for so long. If this team continually shows that it just does not care what the fans think, does not want to make a next step to move to a World Series or even an ALCS, then we're going to have some problems here. And this is the last year they're going to have a chance to do it before all of the rules change. And the fact that they haven't done it yet is extremely frustrating. And it's frustrating because we all expected it. It's frustrating because we're used to it. It's frustrating because it's going through the same action over and over and over again, and somehow expecting a different result. That's not to put it on the players. That's not to put it on the manager. It is, and that's another thing I've learned about this team. It's a complex emotional spectrum with the Guardians. You can be proud and frustrated at the same time. Am I proud of the players? Absolutely. It's not their fault that they had their limitations. It's the management's fault for putting a roster together that had that many limitations. That's where I'm frustrated at. So, yeah, that's what I'm learning about this baseball team and what I'm learning about life in general right now. The fact that I'm picking a small market Midwestern team to be a fan of breeds a lot of frustration. And that's
I get it, bro. And Rob, I mean, that's, you really, I ain't got much else to say on that except for, we were talking about it during the gearing up for the playoff run that didn't last very long. And I said, it's just hard for me to buy in. It's really, and I love the Guardians. And my dad is Papa Moon is like the biggest baseball fan I know. Like, I mean, he wanted 97. He wanted 95 World Series to be the one. He thought 97.
Sometimes it feels like the team I'm wearing right now in my hat has a better chance of winning World Series than the Guardians.
And that's what I'm saying, and I know we could talk about this for another few hours about the Guardians, but we're going to save it for next week. All I'll say is it is hard for me, and I'm sure it is tough for a lot of other people. If it's tough for me, especially around my age range, to buy into this Guardians team when I haven't even heard, until you name me those guys, I didn't even know they made any moves. And truly, I mean, no disrespect to anybody, they haven't made any noteworthy moves. And that's so frustrating. You talked about it, the farm system and everything like that. Travis Bazana is making his way up too, obviously infielder, number 1 overall pick, a few years ago. But it's just not enough. It's not enough. There are so many stars out there, and the Guardians, because we want it, the fans want it, but the Guardians, and that's why I say you guys, I'm talking to the front office, the ownership, whatever it is, I mean, they just don't make that move. So we'll be sitting here again in the summer, albeit without a flannel on, and I'll have a nice t-shirt on, and I'll probably have the AC on in this house. But we will be discussing about the Guardians, trying to find just some crazy move that nobody's thinking of that's going to put them over the top. and it hasn't put them over the top since 1948.
And, we'll see. And I don't have a big chance. I don't think it's a big chance. But at the same time, these rookies could do something. The last time I thought this team was dead and buried was 2 years ago, and they ended up going to the ALCS. So who knows? But right now, we're in a situation where, we're 2026. We're not paying a lot of people right now. Jose Ramirez, he's making $20 million. Tanner Bybee's making $9 million. Stephen Kwan's making $8.5 in arbitration. And then it's just a couple, the relievers are in there. Nolan Jones is getting $2 million this year. So, there's just not a lot of hope here. And, maybe they can, chase the water, look good, in the postseason last year in the limited action that we saw him. Kyle Manzardo looked like he was making some steps forward. Daniel Schneemann, he's been doing well. Gabriel Arias, Brian Rocchio, we can see what's going to happen in the middle of the infield. Speaking of that, you got Travis Bonzana. You just brought him up. There are some young names coming up through the pipeline. I'm not saying that we're completely devoid of any sort of lifeline from the minors. But the fact that we don't have any sort of actual major league established talent there, the Blue Jays, they brought in George Springer. The Dodgers brought in everybody. Teams. I'm not saying we need to build this thing like the Dodgers, where we have 35 free agents on a 25-man roster, but we do need to have some major league players that can contribute and that can be relied upon and are good leaders. And I'm not seeing the Guardians do that right now. Okay, Austin Hedges is great. Austin Hedges, it's great to have him there, and he does win you games. But at the same time, if that's your biggest offensive re-signing or signing in this case, whatever, then you got a problem. Austin Hedges right now, in his whatever batting average, as it stands right now, is the 5th highest paid player on this team.
Yeah, the Guardians need to create a buzz. You want us to go sit out in the cold when it's opening day? You want to sit out in the cold for a potential playoff run?
Opening day will be fine. The second game, if you want people to sit there for the second game,
right. And yeah, exactly. You want
because the buzz will be provided by Yingling, Miller, and Bud, in Weiser and Bud in that first game.
Yeah, and it's like, but they want us to rock out with us, rock out all summer and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I like catching a Guardians game, but there's so much to do in Cleveland that I don't think gets looked at, and I think I'd spend my time and money elsewhere, because the Guardians ownership does not want to spend the money to create that buzz for Guardians fans to believe that we can compete with these juggernauts. We're a good team. I've never worried about the Guardians being a good team. They've never really been a bad team for most of my life, but they just haven't been the best team.
It's so weird, and I'll use this as a closing point here, that we talk about all three of these teams in a negative light in this town, the Browns, the Cavaliers, and the Guardians. And I haven't done the math across every city of major league teams in this great country of ours. But we have to have the most active coach of the year's awards, manager of the year, coach, whatever you want to call it. We have 5 awards between these 3 coaches, and we are still talking about the Cavaliers not breaking through the ceiling, the Browns mired in mediocrity, if not worse, and the Guardians truly mired in mediocrity. And the fact that, we have all these accolades with the coaches is just, I guess that kind of shows you how little that means in the grand scheme of things. The coach of the year, by the way, I've noticed goes to that sentimental favorite, the plucky. You don't need coach of the year if you're holding the World Series trophy. Yeah.
Hey, Ty Lue didn't win coach of the year. We did all right in 2016 Cavaliers.
Ty Lue didn't coach the full season.
I know. Well, look,
remember that was the year that we were doing the college show, and we were talking about David Blatt opening day. He got shit canned to start things out with. So
look, we'll get into the details next week, Rozycki. All I'm saying is, if you want to win a championship in Cleveland, it seems like we can't have all the extra stuff. We just need to go to what we need to win, the championship.
Yeah. I don't know. The longer this goes, the longer I'm convinced I'm just never going to see it happen. But on that note,
Yeah.
This is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. We've gone through some news and notes, figured out what we learned, bitched about as celebrated the Browns, bitched about the Steelers, bitched about the Cavaliers. I hope you enjoyed the show. Obviously, too, if you want to go catch the replay, if you've missed anything, we are on YouTube on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. You can check out all the socials, too, for clips and everything along that line. Eli, you're pointing to nothing.
Oh no, I'm pointing to the social media.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Okay,
Yeah,
I must be hidden on my bar then.
Yeah,
But yes, you can check out the social medias. You can check out the YouTube. Check out anything you might have missed, and then keep an eye out for that kind of stuff too. To figure out as soon as we figure out what the hell we're doing next Sunday, you'll know. But thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for sticking around for 2.5+ hours of quality sports talk here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. Eli, any closing thoughts?
I hope everybody has a great week. Last few days of the year, make them count. Really, it should be the new year, but make them count and get some sleep, man. If you guys are up with us, I don't know if you're on the West Coast, but get some sleep, man. That's what I'm about to do after this.
Yeah, well, you're going to do that, and I'm going to be at the radio station in 4 hours, so I will definitely, get some a nap anyway, and then we'll be on our merry way.
Yeah.
But again, thank you all for listening. We if you guys aren't listening and watching, we're just a couple of dumbasses talking to no one at all about sports. So thank you guys for being a part of this. And yes, for Eli Moon, for Anthony Alford in absentia, I am Rob Rozycki. This is the main event on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network, and we'll see you next week.